fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my God! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Sec's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Welcome one and welcome all to SimSpeed TV. You're watching the Logitech G V8SCOPS Support Series for 2022. We finally come round to the second round of the V8s support category and the third round of the Jetta Cup as well. We're racing at Road Atlanta this weekend, a brilliant circuit in Braselton, Georgia, that is going to be hosting a 250-kilometer standard round for the Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS this Sunday. But we'll get this support action done first. There's plenty of good racing to be had in these two categories. And to bring it to you all live here on SimSpeed TV, there's myself, Reese Gardner, and I've got Brad Wingard alongside me in the commentary box. Brad, Road Atlanta, what a brilliant track. It's a place that we've always loved coming to for V8SCOPS, and can't wait to see how the old cars and the Jettas handle it.
Yeah, good evening, Reese, and good evening to everyone watching. I wouldn't say it's pinnacle of American motorsport, but it's definitely up there. It's such a diverse track as well, with the S's in the middle part of the lap, that long back straight down towards turn 10A and 10B towards the end of the lap, and the draft in these cars into that chicane is going to be absolutely incredible. And after the racing we had at round 1 at Canada, if we have half as good racing here that we did there, it's going to be an absolute banger of a show.
I'm expecting the same. This track was opened in the early 1970s, and it's only been through one real layout change since then. Turns 10A and 10B are the major alteration down there at the end of the lap, and as Brad mentioned, that's going to be the prime overtaking spot around this very short, very fast lap. But those S's coming through turns 2 all the way up to turn 5, that's where some of the biggest action on the first lap is going to be. It's one line only through there. You can do it side by side if you're brave enough. This is the format that the V8s are going for tonight. 2 20-lap sprint races with a full reverse grid and a compulsory pit stop in race 2. It's going to be interesting, this one. It's going to be short, hot, and fast. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so am I, and got a nice grid today. 20-ish cars, 21 cars, I believe, on track tonight. So got a good spread of drivers throughout the field, and drivers like Simon Mizomo, who was a race winner last week, Dan Stevens, who we know is very competitive in anything he gets his hands on. James Anderson currently leads the time in qualifying as we get near the halfway mark, and it's just an awesome place and an awesome grid, and this field is going to be so close at the end of qualifying.
Car number 2, Henry King, we're taking a look at the moment. Henry's one of the guys that handles a lot of the administration stuff behind the scenes at Oceanic Sim Racing, involved with the series organization for the V8SCOPS series, and definitely doesn't pass up an opportunity to have a steer himself He enjoys driving in the V8s. He and his teammate Aaron Gilbert have the 1 and 2 on their cars because they were first and second in the championship last year. But Aaron Gilbert in car 1 has not had the start to the season that he would have hoped for. Unfortunately, walled it at Montreal, and he's currently down in the standings. And James Anderson and Simon Mazzomo took great advantage of that, taking a win apiece last round at Montreal. So that's the state of things going into this. Reese Harnell in the 222, bringing it into the lane here. Of course, the no escape rule is active in V8SCOPS competition in the qualifying session. Once you finish a lap, you have to bring it into the pits before you escape off the circuit. Here's Cruz Mason in car 43. Oh boy, that was very close to jumping off the racetrack, getting an off track. And seems that Cruz is having an interesting time out there, down in 17th at the moment, setting a 1 minute 21.393. It's a little bit off the fastest time that James Anderson has set. He's coming to the end of another hot lap in MRP Sim Racing number 70. And this looks like it's going to be the start of a hot lap. So let's take a ride on board around Road Atlanta. Very fast turn 1. You climb the hill. You've got to try and keep it as tight as possible on the entry into turn 2. Very difficult corner to get right. Ride the curbs as well as you can and try and widen the entry into the S's here. Very difficult to get things right over those very high curbs. They can unsettle the car quite easily. And this exit at turn 5, you can take all of the curb and then some on the exit without worrying about an off track, but it is very bumpy out there. So once again, got to be careful on the throttle. Coming through turns 6 and 7, this section of the circuit is where you got to set up the run onto the straight, and Anderson had to have a couple of goes at that. Not quite stable there coming into turn 7, but coming through turns 8 and 9, it's just a nice serene drive down the back stretch here. But this is where the money is made, the braking zone for 10A and 10B. You push the brake pedal all the way to the floor here thanks to the compression. Don't have to worry about locking up unless you turn the wheel too early. That's a nice clean line through there for Anderson as he exits the final proper acceleration zone here. That is going to be an abandoned lap there. So, well, you saw him demonstrate the final turn on the way through to that hot lap. So that is your education done about Road Atlanta if you're not familiar with this circuit. There goes Daniel Norris, 22.453 there, but just behind him, Aaron Gilbert there improved and pipped his teammate Henry King to 2nd overall. Lance Childs in the number 33. Looks like that's going to be coming up to the start of another lap here. A couple of drivers having issues getting times on the board here in the final half of the session, Brad.
Yeah, it's a very busy track at the moment, especially down that back straight and through the S's, or at least it was run VRS replay now. I'm not quite sure. Well, this is for Henry King. Maybe had an incident coming into the pits.
Oh, yep.
Yes, there we go. And I don't think that's going to be the only time we see that happen tonight, because that entry to pit lane is so tricky. You come over the crest, the car's so light, and then you got to try and get it into the inside of the track and then navigate those S's. So with that compulsory pit stop in the second race, I reckon a lot of time can be made and equally lost coming into the pits. And you're talking about how bumpy these curves are. Of course, we had the updated scan late last year thanks to the iRacing staff, and it's made those curbs slightly more manageable. But as we saw in that lap with Anderson, it's still an absolute battle to hit the curbs and not absolutely butcher your lap at the same time.
Well, looks like that's the final attempt at a time there for Aaron Gilbert. He was unable to really get any better in terms of his lap times, and because we're running with heat format here, it's going to be a hard cut to the end of qualifying. So if you're not already halfway around a lap, then you are not going to get a time in. A couple of MFR cars making their way through here with the 551 of Simon Mazzomo. He's been working pretty closely with the Middle Finger Racing crew as of recent. Daniel Stevens, the number 3. One of the fastest drivers in this series, 1 minute 20.1. That's not going to be an improvement on what he set at 1:19.2. What about Stephen Kennedy, 1 minute 20.1? That's still slower than the fastest time he set. 20 seconds left in the session. If you're not on the back straight on a hot lap, you are not going to get another time in now. So it is absolute crunch time for these drivers. Will Cruz Mason be able to get to the end of the lap? I don't think he will. With 5 seconds to go, still in 10A and 10B, so in a few seconds we will see him disappear from the racing surface, and we can go through the grid for race 1. 20 laps, out and out sprint, no pit stops required in this one. And leading them away is going to be James Anderson, with Aaron Gilbert starting alongside him, championship leader and the reigning champion on the front row. Henry King shares row 2 with Tim Nicol, with Daniel Stevens and Darren Crosby rounding out the top 6. In 7th place, it's going to be Dion DeGraaf with Stephen Kennedy. In 8th place, Gavin Cox and Simon Mazzomo, 9th and 10th. And it's Lance Childs and Reese Harnell who round out the top 12.
In 13th, we have Craig Mason and Dylan Thomas sharing row 7, Troy Sipple and Thomas Riley on row 8, Anthony Green and Cruz Mason sharing row 9, Daniel Norris and Jordan Gallagher, the last 2 cars to qualify, Isaac Edwards and Nathan Tregarthen, of course, running as admin and safety car for tonight. Hopefully won't see that in what is a short race, but being a short race, who knows?
Who knows indeed. The sprint format like this with these very short races means there's a lot more pressure on the drivers to get their moves done. And it also means that there's a great possibility for mistakes, trying to get your braking zones as short as possible. So who knows, we might have to see a need for a safety car at some point tonight, but it remains to be seen. Nonetheless, James Anderson going to be starting on pole position, and this is something that he is reasonably familiar with. Started very well at Montreal too, and this time he'll have Aaron Gilbert and Henry King hounding the back of him. That is, if he even gets a good start here from the front of the grid at Road Atlanta. The rear of the field is not quite on the downhill run towards the final corner, but they'll still have to navigate a turn on the way. The revs shall rise in just a few moments and we can get things started, putting 600 plus horsepower down through a locked differential. Who's going to get the best start here in the Logitech G V8SCOPS Supports at Road Atlanta? We are away. And that is a pretty good start from Aaron Gilbert at the front of the field. Leaves Henry King behind. They're almost going 4 wide behind them meanwhile. A pretty good jump there from Darren Crosby and Daniel Stevens. They're going to go through turn 1 side by side. A little bit of smoke lifted up here as drivers are trying their best to get through these opening turns. And oh dear, side by side on the way into turn 2. That's Dion DeGraaf getting it done on Darren Crosby. Meanwhile, side by side between Mazzomo and Tim Nicol. Mazzomo gets that position. The field has sorted themselves out pretty well, I have to say. Single file on the way through turn 5. But it's James Anderson who leads. And he has got the 2 Jinx Shifters Falcons breathing down his neck.
Yeah, very clean start, all things considered. Thomas Riley had a very slow start, just lit the tyres up, didn't get anywhere off the start, but he's managed to catch up to the back of Daniel Norris already were on the back straight. Much quicker lap than around the Montreal circuit last time out. This draft for Aaron Gilbert and Henry King from the back of James Anderson's car is going to be absolutely crucial. See if Aaron Gilbert goes for it early. I think he might, but Anderson's wise to it and already putting up the big brick wall ahead of those 2 HJR cars, and that is less clean than the previous. That's not good.
That's gotten worse there. Darren Crosby getting tipped into a half spin, and unfortunately on the way through collected Tim Nicol. That is a big shame for those guys. So first big incident of the race, we'll get a replay of it thanks to our friends at Virtual Racing School. Unfortunately, Dion DeGraaf trying to defend there from Darren Crosby on the way into turns 10A and 10B. Crosby was ahead coming into the corner, but DeGraaf didn't quite turn in at the same point, and well, there we go, Tim Nicol, an innocent victim in all of that, and it caused a massive checkup for the drivers behind.
Very good of Nicol to the one time you don't hold the brakes, and he did that really well just to roll off the racing line, got out of everyone's way so no one else got collected. But very unfortunate for him, just innocent bystander. We're on board now with Jordan Gallagher, in 17th position, 15th position, my timing would update. Big gaggle of cars ahead, and this run round turn 7 is so crucial, but it's such a blind turn in. There's no real reference on the outside of that long run up that very slight hill through turn 8 towards the kink at turn 9, and he's looking early weaving side to side down that back straight, but so far he's not in a position to make a move. But Cruz Mason in front, never mind. He has a peak.
It was an attempt, at the very least, just trying to unsettle Anthony Green up ahead of him. And oh dear, that's a messed up exit there for Jordan Gallagher. Got a couple of wheels in the grass, and that is a freebie there for Cruz Mason. He dips a couple of wheels in the grass himself as they begin the third lap of 20. So a lot of stuff happening throughout the field as of right now. But for the time being, up at the front of the field, it is still James Anderson who leads the way. It's another attempt here to try and get by. Goodness me. It's very difficult to get a move done into turn 2. That explains it. And it looks like Tim Nicol has gotten a meatball flag. Too much damage. He's going to have to bring that into the pits. And that is interesting. The incident that we saw happen for him, it didn't exactly destroy his car. But I get the feeling the contact might have just happened in the wrong place for him.
Yeah, it really didn't look like much, but I don't know, maybe there was something we didn't see off screen, but that's really strange.
I went back and checked, and nothing further happened to Nicol, so I think that's just bad luck there, the way that he ended up making contact with Darren Crosby. When Crosby was getting back onto the racetrack, it looked like it just got him in the right rear quarter. Very unfortunate. Speaking of Crosby, as we check out Gilbert, Crosby's just lost a position to Craig Mason, who's gotten by him into turn 1. You definitely can't miss Mason's car there. And it was a nice move up the inside there for Mason, up into 8th place, but he's going to have to be careful getting on the throttle out of turn 2. Very difficult to put the power down over these very big curbs, though these cars do tend to like jumping over the curbs. Let's see how they go then on the way down to turn 7. Meanwhile, we were looking at the front of the field. Looks like that move is done. And now, let's see what this ANZ Jinx Shifters duo can do against the likes of James Anderson. Aaron Gilbert, 3 tenths behind, and he'll be getting a good slipstream here. The draft seems reasonably strong coming down the back stretch, but Gilbert just can't get close enough to get the move done.
No, he needs an extra, even 100 meters would do that job. Simon Mizomo is got a massive rear mirror of Childs behind him, though. Cox and Kennedy, very similar. That back straight is doing everything that these guys wanted to do, unless, of course, you're that lead car. But an extra 100, 115 meters would be just enough for Aaron Gilbert to get through. We'll get another VRS replay as well. And this is maybe a move for position by Gavin Cox.
Let's take a look then on board with the Middle Finger Racing driver, rounding it up and straight down the inside, and got the move done very nicely. That was a very daring late move on the brakes, but Cox managed to pull it off. That's how he got by Stephen Kennedy in the number 55 Falcon. Back to live pictures then. We check out that 555 car, and he's trying to get away from Kennedy. Not having much luck with it so far. See what he can do to try and pick up a draft from Kennedy's teammate Darren Crosby up ahead. And Crosby, as we've mentioned, already suffering a couple of issues in this race so far.
Yeah, it's been a tale of two races this first 5 laps or so. The front of the field has been nice and clean. The mid-pack has been less than that. Childs on the inside of Mizomo, though, doesn't quite have enough. That was very Heads Up Racing decided to pull out of that move. Mizomo, of course, is a very fair but harsh racer who apparently has a cheeseburger on board with him at the moment. I don't know how driving around here one-handed would go, but he's still managing to pull it off, and maybe the extra weight's giving him a bit of extra grip in the corners. But now I'm just making up stuff for the sake of making stuff up, but Childs is still there right behind Mizomo, and if he can get a good run through the S's, I think a move into turns 10A and B will be on for him this lap, because he's in a very good position so far.
Well, if Simon Mazzomo wants any advice on driving one-handed around any track, I can certainly lend him some advice there. I'll be driving in the Jettas after this race concludes. Mazzomo doing quite well to keep Lance Charles behind him, and Lance Charles is making the job a little easier there by outbraking himself into turn 6. Meanwhile, almost a move for the lead once again. Gilbert has picked up the draft from James Anderson once again. And we'll see what happens down at 10A and 10B. Early defensive move there from Anderson. It's possible to make moves around the outside in 10A, but Gilbert not far enough alongside to get it done. But now we definitely see how the state of this top 3 battle is. Gilbert and King have the pace and they have the slipstream advantage. It's going to be up to James Anderson to try and make his Holden Commodore the widest in Georgia.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it'd probably be the only Holden Commodore in Georgia, but we'll skip over that point for
I'm sure there's
now.
a few Pontiac G8s and Chevrolet SSs out there still.
I mean, yeah, okay, I'll give you that one. But technically not a Commodore, although technically is a Commodore. Potato, I guess. But yeah, Gilbert and King definitely have the pace advantage, but Anderson has the track advantage, and at the end of the day, that is what will win out 9 out of 10 times. The difference will be how much is Aaron Gilbert pushing those tyres to make those, well, set up those passes on Anderson, and how conservative is Anderson being with his tyres, because although this isn't a long race, we know how long these tyres don't last. So that's going to be the crucial thing at the end of the day. Henry King in third currently has the fastest lap of the race by about a tenth of a second. Not that that really means much when you're in third place, as we ride on board with him now, looking to maybe not make a move on his teammate, and this time by not quite close enough for either driver to make a move. So I don't know, 13 laps to go. Tyres are going to be so important for those final few, so we'll have to see how that one plays out.
Checking out the number 47 of Craig Mason on the replay, meanwhile. Something's gone wrong for him here. Has he taken a bit too much curb? Yes, he has. That's massively unsettled the car and tipped him into a half spin. So that's cost him 3 positions, could potentially be 4 with that Falcon in the background. Shame there. The number 47 now back down to 11th place. And Mason, well, he's still ahead of where he started, so he should be happy with that. That's the top 3. They have broken away from the rest of the field, haven't they? They got Daniel Stevens all on his lonesome in 4th place. Then the battle between Mazzomo and Childs for 5th. And then we come through to the teammate pairing here of Darren Crosby and Stephen Kennedy. Running in formation, these guys, and looking very nice to boot. And it looks like this is how it ended up happening. Looks to me like Gavin Cox, in his dogged pursuit of yellow and black Ford Falcons, has almost pressured Crosby into a mistake there. Crosby, of course, still carrying some damage from his lap 1 incident, so that car might not be the best to drive at the moment. Meanwhile, there's battles going on all throughout the field. We actually checked in on a fight a little earlier for 17th place. It looks like that's calmed down now. We're going to take a look at something else here on the replay. This is the number 308 of Anthony Green, who is running pink wheels in remembrance of Kimmy from Kimmy's Rural Fencing, unfortunately passing away some time ago. But this team that he races for still carries Kimmy's name. And a very nice gesture there to run pink wheels. Oh, hello. That's how he ended up potentially making up a position here. Would have been a slowdown for that car. That's the 222 of Reese Harnell, but nothing seems to have happened there for... Oh, there we go. Oh, that's unfortunate there. Half spin for Anthony Green, but he just manages to keep it out of the tyre bundles. Oh no,
you say
as
that.
we come back to him, that's another off. That's very unfortunate there for Anthony Green. He's going to lose out on a couple more positions here. He's currently running in 19th, and well, he can't lose any more positions because the other 2 cars out on track are Nathan Tregarthen and Tim Nicol retiring, unfortunately. Actually, neither of them are running, I think, as there's almost a move there for the lead of the race. Meanwhile, it looks like Lance Childs has come out on top in the battle between himself and Simon Mazzomo. Childs is now up into 5th place, and I suspect we will see how it happened here. Let's check out then Simon Mazzomo. Was there a mistake here from the 555? Childs was a bit far back to really make a pass. Mazzomo gets over the curbs here, and, the car looks still pretty settled. Let's see if there was a lock-up here at turn 6. Did he run wide? Did he catch the curb here in between the corners? Did he take too much curb here in turn 7? Oh, just a bit too much throttle there for Simon Mazzomo, and Lance Childs was there to pounce. Meanwhile, on live pictures, I've seen a problem for Dion de Graaf. He has fallen down to 11th and now 12th. There has been a big problem for Dion. And, he's having a lot of trouble keeping control of that thing. We're going to have to go straight to another replay. That's out of turn 2. Big spin. Very unstable over the curbs.
Yeah, he just caught the inside of the turn 3 curb, which of course you kind of need to run to set up the run down the S's, and very much like Simon, just got on the power a bit too early. Gets wide and on the grass, and lock differential, no traction control. That's always only going to end one way. Thankfully, no one else got involved though. Got it spun around quite efficiently, I might add. Unfortunately, like you said, dropped 4 positions, but still a unfortunate spin, but a very safe one, if you can say that.
Stephen Kennedy trying to get the position back here on Craig Mason. Mason's another one of those drivers who's recovering from an earlier incident, trying to make up places, and it looks like Kennedy's got the run on him into turn 1 here, but is there going to be an over-under here from Craig Mason? There is indeed. Is he going to have the pace to go for the inside at turn 2? Yes, he is. Excellent little fight that's going on between these guys for the 9th position running on track.
Yeah, that was a very good run. Both of them side by side through the last corner, and the over-under through turn 1 is not easy to do, especially in cars like this, so very well driven by both of those guys. See a swap for position further up the field. Henry King's going to have a stab at James Anderson. Now, I don't know if that was team orders or if King just got the better run, but he's now up into 2nd place, and Aaron Gilbert slotting into 3rd, and see if they can get something off this as we pretty much hit halfway now.
I just rewound a little. It looks like Aaron Gilbert got the car crossed up over the curb on the entry to turn 7, and that's the corner leading onto the back stretch, so that's how King got by him. Still moves being made. The 818 and the 20. It's Dion de Graaf and Dylan Thomas here with an excellent move around the outside by Mr. de Graaf to protect that position from Dylan Thomas. So much curb being taken there in the final corners, and this is a battle that we've kept trying to go back to, but there's been so much else happening on track that we haven't quite been able to show it. This is the battle for 16th place. We have Troy Sipple, Thomas Riley, and Daniel Norris all running line astern here, and that's a bit of a late dive into turn 1 there. Oh, take care, Troy Sipple trying his best here to catch up to Cruz Mason. Got Riley there behind him as well. This is some pretty excellent racing that's going on at the moment. And these guys all in a 4-car train, and there's a 5th car joining them. It's Nathan Tregarthen, who is running 2 laps down. Tregarthen missed the start. Oh dear, that was a big mistake there from Troy Sipple. That's going to give the advantage here to Thomas Riley. Is it going to be an inside move into turn 6? Oh, got a bit of overlap and just avoids making contact with the right rear quarter. Even then, they probably banged wheels or rubbed panels a little. Daniel Norris with a huge oversteer moment behind.
Yeah, I don't know if he knows, but the Formula D section is further down the track as we go through 10A and 10B and through that little U-turn at the top of the hill, but thankfully has a big enough gap back. Not these guys though. Cruz Mason and that is
there we go.
Less than ideal.
Yeah, coming together in the braking zone there. Looks to me like Sipple was trying to get back on the racing line, but Riley was trying to brake as late as possible. Looks like they've managed to recover, though. We'll get a virtual racing school replay of that one. It seems that Riley, he was able to get the run done. There's 2 parts to this, actually. Here's the number 20 of Dion de Graaf. Has there been an issue for him down at the 10A and 10B chicane? And it looks like there was, and he's being chased there still by Dylan Thomas. These guys are still running in the same order on track, so I think there might have been a redress here, but we'll have to wait and see. Dion de Graaf On the inside, coming into 10A and 10B. Is there a coming together at the apex? De Graaf tries to turn in. Oh, there we go. Great exit round the outside, able to keep up the momentum. These guys just running side by side all through the last corner. How on earth are they able to do that? De Graaf ends up winning that battle. Meanwhile, here's what happened to Mr. Sipple. Tries moving back onto the racing line, but oh man, that's just a shame there. Trying your best to brake as late as possible, but unfortunately, if there's a car moving back onto the racing line in front of you, once you've committed to the brakes, there isn't exactly many places you can go, and unfortunately, it looks like Troy Sipple has gotten a lot of damage from that one. He is going to end this race in the pits. Meanwhile...
Well, sorry, I was going to say before we watch this super exciting action, please cut me off, as I was going to say, if something else happens, something else has happened. Troy Sipple, as he got hit in that incident we just saw on the replay, came across and made contact with his teammate at the apex of turn B, so that's where he's got all of his damage as well. So wanted to get that quickly, but we'll get back to live pictures because this is really heating up with 7 laps to go.
Yeah, Henry King is really showing that he is the one with the pace out of the Jinx Shifters machines. The swap was made after Aaron Gilbert suffered from a mistake, and now King is piling the pressure on James Anderson. It is a Holden and 2 Fords that lead the way across the line with 6 laps to go here at Road Atlanta. And this opening sector of the track, I mean, it is possible to go for moves, but it's really down here where the moves are made. That battle continuing to go on between Dylan Thomas and Dion de Graaf, and it looks like Thomas has managed to get the job done that time.
Yeah, it's really ebb and flowing, as is this battle as well, and neither of these guys really want to give up because, Henry King have a bit of a wheel spin moment up over the top of the hill there. But this run down out of turn 7 is going to be so crucial. Coming to 5 laps to go is going to be even harder, but this Stonewall defense from James Anderson has been near perfect all race. There's only been one little bit of overlap so far from Aaron Gilbert a few laps ago. But now Henry King, within 1/10 of a second, this is a done deal as far as the draft and top speed goes. But can he get it pulled up in time and hang it around the outside? Of course, becomes the inside. The last 2 corners, and that's made it a lot
Anderson!
easier.
And King goes off as well. That is a huge incident there. King will have gotten a slowdown, and that promotes Aaron Gilbert into the lead. James Anderson is going to be heartbroken at that, leading all the way up until that mistake. Just locked up the rears going tight into 10A and 10B. As we go to the virtual racing school replay, that's where I'm going to have to sign off to go racing in the Jettas. I'm going to hand over to Daniel Yeaman now to take you through the final 5 laps of this race. But one more look then at what happened to James Anderson and Henry King.
Yeah, that was absolutely not the way he wanted that to go. Now he's fallen behind Dan Stevens as well. Mr. Consistency, I'm going to start calling him because he somehow always manages to end up on the podium, and that's what pressure does. Henry King and Aaron Gilbert have been hammering away at that brick wall, and I think I jinxed him as well, calling it a stonewall defense, and then 3 corners later he's gone and binned it. So now it's a recovery drive for Anderson with 5 laps to go, but Dan Stevens isn't going to give this up easy as he makes a bit of a mistake around turn 7. But now the move is on for James Anderson, see if he can make a better job of attacking than he can defending. But that's just given Aaron Gilbert probably the biggest lead of this race at 0.5 of a second. It's already side by side. Dan, I'll introduce you and let you take over for this fantastic pass for 3rd position.
Well, talk about showing up at just about the right time here, folks. Good evening, and thank you for being here with us as the heat is building. And this is race 1 of 2 for the V8s, of course, tonight, which means we get to do this all over again once we get through the Jetta Cup. And look at that, Stevens is pushing all the way past the track edge to the grass at the final corner. Pretty typical thing here at Road Atlanta, mind you, so have to make sure you don't do it too much. All the same, up through turn 1, 4 to go for these guys, and it's all action. Oh, trouble though at 10A, 10B. Oh, dear me. The 33 and the 818. Lance Childs and Dylan Thomas together, it would seem. Meanwhile, back on that battle with those, Anderson has made the move, and rather than wait for 10A, 10B, Again, he's gone for it down the S's, Brad. Stevens, though, gets to run around the outside of turn 5. He's going to have a go at turn 6 as they trade back and forth here.
Yeah, this is why we love Road Atlanta. So many S's, so many corners coming back to each driver no matter what side of the attack or defense you're on. Anderson's going to have to go for it again down into 10A and 10B, and that was a fantastic run down the S's, but it came back to Stevens in the end. Simon Mazzomo is lurking in the background as well. He could pick up a late game podium as well if he keeps it clean. Dan Stevens goes defensive instantly. Anderson's going to have to go the long way around, which we've seen done, but it's not the easiest. Gets a nice wide straight exit though. He's going to have the inside for the last corner if he can get it there, and he does. Side by side, Dan Stevens just gives him the space, and now he's got the outside, and he unfortunately put it on the grass, but he keeps the speed up anyway. He's going to go the long way around turn 1, maybe an over-under. And this is insane. This is why we love this track, and I don't think he's going to let it settle at that anyway.
Well, if anything, to go by last lap, no, he won't, Brad. I mean, we see there that he had the pace to, go back past it. We have a look here at 10A, 10B again. Dylan Thomas trying to make his way back after that spin, and he's now fighting with Reese Harnell on the exit of those corners, but he's going to slot back in front over the hill there and get the lead between those two at least. But Harnell's got an excellent drive to the final turn, and I think he'll be on the pressure once again. So back towards that P3 fight. You can see here, this is why Stevens was fighting super hard. Now that we've gotten one lap in here, and Anderson's had to be able to run down the S's pretty normally, and oh dear, more trouble for Thomas off in the grass at turn 1. Coming up the hill. Oh, you just want to try and keep your eyes on what's going on everywhere here tonight, but it's happening just about everywhere we look. So this is, I think, why we say, yeah, Stevens was worried about letting Anderson go, because Anderson clearly has the pace to run away in clean air without making, if he doesn't make mistakes. As we jump to a quick virtual racing score replay, the 47 of Craig Mason, pardon me, at the bottom of the S says, Brad, is he going to hit the fence? No, he's not going to hit the fence, actually. But that's about as close as you'd probably want for someone who's in control of their car. Still, only just. As we head back to live pitches. So Mazzomo now, it's 2 to go for them at the line. And I reckon now, Mez, he'll be relatively happy with a P5. But you look at those lap time deltas there, Brad, and certainly he'll be eyeing off P4 here at the very least.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how this lap plays out, because of course those were defending for Anderson against Stevens defending against Anderson, sorry. So the gap's within 1.1, 1.2 seconds, which is not bad. Mazzomo up 5 positions, which he'll be absolutely stoked with. One more would just be the cherry on top of that wonderful cake or that cheeseburger that he have in his car, according to his spoiler. But he does lock up around turn 7, which is less than ideal. Crosby and Cox have been glued to each other all race. That's a mistake from Cox. Coming round turn 7 as well. Everyone really starting to feel their tyres give way. Battle for the lead has really calmed down. Henry King just tailing Aaron Gilbert now as we start 1 lap to go. I don't know if he'll try and send a move on, because I mean, that'll be great for King, but at the risk of ruining that race, as we've seen happen so many times, I don't know if it's worth it. But we jump on board with Craig Mason now, hounding the back of Dion DeGraff down the back straight, and I reckon he'll have this move done. Jordan Gallagher just up the road as well. He's a bit out of reach for these guys with 1 lap to go, but Craig Mason's decided to take it calm. He's still got, 11 corners to make a pass done, so better save that position and have one more big crack, and he's got a good run out of the acceleration zone of 10B, and this could set up for a fantastic lap for him.
There we go. He's got himself 12 corners left to navigate. He's got it done at turn 1, just as we cut to the virtual racing score replay to see what's happened to Dylan Thomas here. He was tailing the 43 there. That's Cruz Mason in the Race on Oz paint job entry there. And up the inside comes Thomas. Oh no, locks the rear tyres all by himself. And, well, thankfully, car pivots 90 degrees, but he's able to get that car back under control and get to it. But more hurt pride and, well, definitely a bit of a bruised result after this one here. But back to live pitches in the front of the field. Team Jinx Shifters make it a 1-2 with number 1 leading home number 2. Gilbert leads home King. They'll be very happy with that result there. And Anderson, after such a strong opening half to this race and holding off the pressure valiantly, is going to have to settle in for 3rd place. Stevens brings it home in 4th. Where has Mazzomo gone? That's okay. Mazzomo is still there in 5th, but that's a lot okay, that gap has definitely shifted a bit since I thought it was going to be. Gavin Cox has brought it home in 6th. Meanwhile, we look further back here to Dion DeGraff in the other of the MRP Sim Black's entries here. And then back once more to Dylan Thomas. One last chance at Cruz Mason coming up here in a 10A 10B. Brad closing in. Can he get that car pulled up this time? He's closing, but not quite there on the brakes. He can get the run off here potentially through 10B and then up over the top of 11 and 12. It's so easy to light the rears if you keep the foot in, but no chance. It looks like Mason's going to hang on to that spot there. Thomas will have to settle in for P14 at the end of that race. And meanwhile, last lap troubles. Daniel Norris, 027, gets the car going again. And looks like he will be uncontested and bring it across the line just ahead of Anthony Green there. No, pardon me, Anthony Green's a bit further back. So that is a number 17 of Troy Sipple back of shot there as they both end their first of 2 races tonight here, Brad. Well, now we get a chance to quickly run through the results in, well, actually a moment's time. But certainly action aplenty up and down the field. And then the 1-2 coming home in 1-2. Gilbert from King there. They'll be quite happy with that one, I dare suggest. And James Anderson will be ruining what could have been for that race tonight. He'll take home 3rd place, though, which is a relatively decent result all the same. Ahead of Daniel Stevens there. Not quite able to keep the pressure on to the end, but I'm sure he'll be fairly happy with P4 tonight. And then Simon Mazzomo running out his top 5. Gavin Cox brings it home P6 ahead of Darren Crosby. In P7, Stephen Kennedy P8. Jordan Gallagher P9, and Craig Mason rounding out the top 10 there, sorry.
11th was Dion DeGraff and Reese Harnell, and 12th, Cruz Mason manages to hold off Dylan Thomas for 13th and 14th. Thomas Riley and Lance Childs, what a race they could have had if not for their earlier incidents. Daniel Norris as well in 17th. Anthony Green and Nathan Tegrathan finishing on the lead lap and then 3 laps down respectively. Troy Sipple, after his very unfortunate incident with his teammate at 10A and 10B, and we'll get a replay, I'm hoping, of that incident as well, because that was so unfortunate. We've seen the first half of this replay, but we haven't seen the second of it. This was the move that set everything off, and Troy Sipple...
Oh, dear me. Yes,
that one we didn't see.
Nasty trio of incidents involved there. So that was Dion DeGraff getting into the back of Lance Childs as he went to go past Dylan Thomas, and instead that completely ruined, well, at least 2 of those races there. They'll not be too impressed with that one, I dare suggest. But what we're going to do here, folks, is I'm going to take a quick break because we'll be back with the V8s later on tonight, but we've got ourselves the Jetta Cup to split up the races here. So stay with us. We'll be back after these quick ads.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
When I'm driving an F1 car, steering wheel feedback is one of the most important things. It helps me decide when to brake and how hard. It's how I feel the surface of the road. Every bump in the terrain, every wheel slip. If my tyres are starting to lose grip, I can sense that immediately. When I'm driving in a sim, I need that same tactility, that level of detail I have in a real car.
Racing games have come a long way in the last 20 years. Nothing's really changed in how we approach force feedback in all that time. Cutting-edge sims are now so realistic, drivers across all disciplines are using them for training. Our main goal when designing True Force was to improve the number of sensations that you actually feel, to put you better in contact with the car that you're driving so that you can improve your performance and that enjoyment of driving on a track. The physical feedback needs to be more immediate or accurate, or a player loses immersion or control.
Game developers are still having to recreate their force feedback from a set library of effects instead of deriving it from real-time modelling.
True Force is special because it levels the playing field for PC and console gamers. You're now getting the extra level of precision and detail that you need, regardless of which platform is your choice. This is not just iteration, it's total evolution. True Force feedback works differently. It hooks directly into the physics engine of the game. Games already calculate the forces on the tyres and the steering wheel. The True Force algorithm is able to process this data at up to 4,000 times a second. It will even use the game's audio engine and pass it directly on to the driver.
We spend a lot of time as audio designers trying to make each car sound unique and as realistic as we possibly can. Being able to integrate the audio into the force feedback is something that we've wanted to do for a long time, and True Force enables us to do that. And the ability to send the audio to the wheel, to have it respond and vibrate with the loss of traction, really increases my ability to give that immersion to the player.
You can sense the changing surface of the road. You'll be able to feel if the back end of the car is losing grip.
The first time we had it running in the build, I could feel the wheel humming and vibrating as we revved the engine. Our immediate reaction was it really adds another level of immersion.
The first thing you're going to feel with a True Force wheel is the engine note. The minute the engine starts in the game, you will know exactly which car you are driving. True Force is the beginning of something new. This is now the foundation for all wheels that we'll produce in the future. This extra level of information gives everyone all the information they need to learn how to control their car better. True Force benefits any racing fan looking for a more realistic driving experience.
Because winning is all about feeling.
Welcome back to SimSpeed TV as we continue with the action from this weekend's Logitech G V8SCOPS Support Series racing before we get to the main game on Sunday. Well, my name is Danny Yeaman and Brad Wingard alongside me in the commentary box as we shift our attention from the V8s that we just saw there for their first race of the evening to our Jetta Cup for this week's action. 10-minute race followed by 15-minute full grid reverse for the boys out here in their clean diesel machines. Maybe not so clean, I guess. Depends on how you put it. Bad marketing, perhaps, from VW, to put it mildly, nevertheless, Brad. But, well, practice time almost up for these guys here, which means we'll be able to get to the open qualifying session soon enough as we have a quick look here once again. The details from Road Atlanta. Never mind the Royd Atlanta. That's always a good one there. And I'm sure Jay has been given enough heat for that little oopsie daisies there. So Road Atlanta, just pretend the eye doesn't exist this week, folks. I suppose that'll help things out there. But yeah, so certainly it's fast and furious with these ones here, Brad. And but these guys are lapping pretty slow, as you'd expect for a production car on the iRacing service.
Yeah, about nearly 20 seconds a lap slower than we had in the V8s, and instead of hearing the nice loud roar of the V8 through the corners, all you hear is high-pitched tyre squeal, and I haven't been able to cool the Jettas yet. I missed both of the previous rounds, unfortunately, but I'm very excited to be able to call it because I did manage to catch some of the action at the Red Bull Ring, and it was interesting. I enjoyed it. It was different, and everyone who knows what I like to drive on this service knows how much I love the TCRs, so I'm going to pretend that these are super low powered, low downforce diesel TCR cars. Other words, they're front wheel drive cars, and I like that, so I'm very excited for the racing tonight.
Suppose that analogy is close enough as the checkered flag flies on practice here, which means we can jump into qualifying. 10 minutes open session for all the guys to get back out there and set their best time to get the grid prepared for the first of their 2 races tonight. As you can see here, cars coming into the grid. Who's going to be the first one off pit lane? The answer is, I think it's going to be Isaac Edwards there in the number 15 machine. The race on Oz, yes indeed, out he goes. Quickly followed by the 222 of Gavin Cox, the 555 of Gavin Cox, and Zach Mitchell in the 54. Your first 3 off the lane. And top 4 off the lane, that is, rounded out by Dan Stevens there with the number 1 on his car after last year's Support Series win in the Trucking Legends. So he'll be hoping to try and keep that number 1 on the car this year, Brad. But, well, the fast guys at the front of the field so far in the first 2 rounds of the Jetta Cup since they race at Red Bull and Mosport, last 2 V8SCOPS events, has been the V-Race experience down under the Sim Esport machines. Ray Oliver and Kyle Ridley in the 99 and 27 respectively. So watch out for those 2 Jettas to make their way to the front of the qualifying times. Certainly they were the front runners in practice, and I expect them to be hard to catch in this race, even with the slipstream that these cars can produce, as demonstrated here by Cox with Zach Mitchell in behind. Loving some of the work here we've got paint job wise, Brad. I take full pride in that paint job we see on screen right now. That is actually a paint that was designed for a ZB Commodore. Was quite literally copied and pasted over with 0 regrets. And, it actually turns out all right.
If you don't say so yourself. Zach Mitchell looking very speedy, trying to get past Gavin Cox to start his qualifying run. I don't know if that's really the smartest idea. Makes the last corner with plenty of room to spare. These cars are exceptionally narrow. But I was wondering if that might ruin his run into turn 1. Massive slide from Isaac Edwards up front, and never mind, Zach Mitchell's already ruined his time by going off the track. So every point that I just made is completely mute. But now he's just got to make sure he doesn't ruin Dan Stevens' lap, who is very close behind him coming down the S's.
Yeah, there's top 4 out on the circuit here currently, led by Isaac Edwards as we have a look at him on screen right now. The number 15 for ICT Marketing Race on Oz. Down the bottom of the S's there, that was a little touch and go, I think, a little wide of the preferred exit trajectory. And in fact, he's pulled the car over to the offline of the circuit, so surely he'll be on the brakes here in a sec. They've got to be careful here because the middle finger boys of Cox and Stevens are looking to keep their pace up. Oh, watch out there, Isaac. Dan Stevens is trying to get through here and get a lap done. And positioning is not too great for the 15 machine. I'm sure he's just trying to get out of the way, but it's not helpful here. Everyone wants the slipstream because, well, in a low-powered car such as this, every bit of straight line speed you can get is a benefit. You see here on board now with the 222 of Reese Harnell in his machine. He's currently on a valid time here, and he's got all of the tow in the world. The only problem is that Zach Mitchell ahead isn't on a lap, so hopefully Mitchell here just going to settle in, take the normal line this time through the final couple of turns, and set up for a second attempt and get that turn 1 right as they make their way up and over turn A, turn B. Turn 11 apparently is a corner there at the bridge, but alas, it's America, and apparently they can't corners right. Mitchell has completely lost the rear end through the final turn, and that's going to absolutely scupper an ideal start to this second lap for that 54 machine there, Brad.
Yeah, I don't know what the tyre wear on these cars are like, but I know that the fuel will last about 4.5 hours. So fuel is not going to be a worry for these guys. But Zach's just making sure he has that extra bit of heat in those front tyres for his third qualifying attempt in about 2 minutes' time. And cars going everywhere at the end of the lap. Linton Wheels going very wide at turn 1, just turning into a diesel lawnmower instead of a petrol one. And he'll work his way down the S's. He's the second last car in this very spread out trail. Scott Stevens bringing up the rear of the field, which is not really something I thought I would say in a qualifying sense at the tail of a train, but each to their own, I guess. So far, Reese Gardner, Henry King, who I believe is race control, Linton Wills and Zach Mitchell, the only cars not to set a qualifying lap. All three of those drivers having mistakes previously, so they'll probably get their laps in this time round or the following lap as we ride on board with Kyle Riddle going down that long back straight, which seems even longer in cars that'll... Well, he's pulled over, so that slows it down even more, but I'm going to say cars that are very much slower in a straight line than a V8, and we see a very small glimpse of the bridge coming out of turn 10A there.
Yes, I just noticed a peak speed of 200 kilometers an hour into 10A there, so absolutely terrifying speeds for these road-going machines. And, well, next set of lap times coming up on the board, and, well, starting to put things together is Zach Mitchell, but that's going to be P6 for him at this stage, with 1 valid time on the board, and he's all over the rear bumper of Gavin Cox, which means he's got to be careful not to get a 0x contact penalty for getting too close there. Meanwhile, looking at the top of the timing charts real quick, surprise, surprise, Carl Ridley and Ray Oliver are your 1 and 2. In fact, there they are, having, I think, just actually backed off last lap to give themselves the space to go flat out here. They've got just enough time on the board here to get this lap and one more attempt on the board here. Of course, heat race format tonight for both series here that we're seeing. So you would have noticed it at the end of the V8s qualifying earlier on. It's a hard cut in qualifying, and we will see the same here in the Jetta Cup in 3 minutes and 50 seconds time.
I'm quite surprised that Zach Mitchell, who was third in this queue at the lead and third fastest in practice, hasn't backed off the back of Isaac Edwards just to get that bit of a draft without having his lap impeded. He's making him pass for position, if you can call it that, on Gavin Cox, getting the draft from Dan Stevens at the front of this train, which is going to screw over Gavin Cox. But of course, if you're in the drop back car, you really don't mind too much about ruining a competitor's lap. And he's going to go for a pass on Dan Stevens for good measure through the final corner, just to try and get some clean track for one more lap. That qualifying time still not as fast as his practice time, so can't quite put the lap together. But Ridley and Oliver still leading qualifying by 0.8 of a second over Reese Gardner, who had to make a mad dash down to put his race suit on halfway through the V8's race and made it just in time.
Yes, indeed, and there we go. They actually decided to go and change it up for the Down Under Semi Sport boys. Ray Oliver gets himself ahead of Carl Ridley there, 10.5 in it, and Ridley, they're actually deciding to push it a bit too hard at turn 1 and throw himself into the grass at back of shot as we have a quick look here at Linton Wills in the 842 machine for Alpha Venturi Racing. Unfortunately, a little bit off the pace tonight there in P number 9. So he'll be hoping to try and pick up the speed here, but he's only got time for this lap, I believe. He won't get one more in based on where he's at. Well, actually, he might. It's going to be touch and go, though, because of the way these cars will take their sweet time getting down the back straight here as we jump on board with Dan Stevens now in behind Zach Mitchell. And Stevens currently at 139.7 for him, his best time in qualifying. I get the feeling these guys, they all did practice times in the low 39s, or in the case of Zach Mitchell, low 138s. I get the feeling their desire to be either in clean air or getting as much slipstream as possible has really hurt them all in this qualifying run, and really could have all done themselves a bit of a favour in spacing out to about 0.8 to a second each. There's plenty of track space for 10 Jettas around this circuit at 4.3 kilometres. Pardon me, just under 4.1. I do actually know my track facts, perhaps. So they can certainly afford to be closer. Dan Stevens does indeed go and improve himself to 139.0 And he won't have time, though, to improve beyond that. So that is him done in qualifying. These guys will have to accept this here. Linton Wills, currently 10th place, doesn't improve to a 140.0 because I believe that was, an invalid lap, Brad. So that won't count. Scott Stevens does a 39.0. Unfortunately, that's not an improvement over his previous best in the session. So that will mean he's down there. And the down under semi-sport machines bring their cars in sync to the pit lane, knowing that their session is done for qualifying here, Brad.
Yeah, that wraps up qualifying. Very short or small field today, so I'll let you take over that. But I know a lot of drivers are probably not going to be happy with where they finished in qualifying, but thankfully they get to do it for another 10 minutes straight after this.
Well, I guess the thing is with the race, 0x contact is certainly encouraged, and we will be happy to see it. And, well, let's have a run through those grid positions for you now, folks, since there is nothing more to it. Ray Oliver and Carl Ridley making it down on a semi-sport front row lockout once again here in the Jetta Cup. No surprises there after their opening form at the Red Bull Ring and Mosport in the previous rounds for this support series. Reece Gardner is P3 tonight there, and then he's joined by Zach Mitchell in P4. So a good improvement there for Mitchell, although it turns out the mid-pack of this group here is incredibly tight. Have a look at these times once we go over the page in a moment's time. Scott Stevens out of P5 with Isaac Edwards out of P6. And then over the page we get into the 139s with Dan Stevens in P7. Gavin Cox alongside him, so Littlefinger Racing blocking out row number 4. Between them, Reece Harnell in P9 and Linton Wills will round out the field tonight in 10th place. Henry King, 00, will be in the Porsche Cayman 718 GT4 safety car. If for some reason we do need that, though, chance of a safety car intervention in this category is quite low, I would dare suggest. Well, we'll see them now grid up. We will have to wait for the full time to elapse due to that manual safety car in use here, Brad. So we'll have plenty of time here whilst these guys make their way onto the grid. We are waiting on simply Scott Stevens in the 551. Fusion Sim Racing entry to line up there in behind his teammate Reece Gardner and round out row number 3. And then it'll be a matter of waiting the clock out before we get this race underway.
Yeah, I'm expecting a big old plume of smoke from pretty much everyone. I don't know what the acceleration off the line is like in these with the little horsepower that they have, but I guess we're only seconds away from finding out. I think that's 8 out of 10 cars on the grid now. 9 out of 10 cars if I went to year 4 and I could count properly, but 1 car left and get this race underway.
Yep, well, we sit here and we now wait as a... Oh, no, pardon me. Zach Mitchell's decided to abandon the grid now whilst we're getting ready for this one to go. And, well, you better make sure he's back on the grid. In fact, he's having a bit of a good old blink, so that's not quite what you want to see if you're ahead, behind, or alongside that 54 machine. And, well, it looks like that's stabilised there now. So, not long left on the clock here, folks, and we wait for the revs to rise in just a couple of seconds' time. And you're going to have to listen very, very carefully. I think I hear them now. Well, we'll wait for the green flag to fly here, folks. The first of the Jetta Cup races from Road Atlanta. And there we are, we're underway here for the first of 2 races. And oh dear, sloppy start at the back of the field for Isaac Edwards. That number 15 car went absolutely nowhere. And it looks like Kyle Ridley's going to steal the front position off of Ray Oliver here. And Reece Gardner's going to pressure for P2 around the outside in the first lap here, but not quite able to make it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, change of position for 1, 2. Otherwise, these guys sort of file in. Well, I say file in, but no, Zach Mitchell, for half a second there, thought about challenging for P3. Going to have to back out of it as the guys make their way down the hill. And look at that, Isaac Edwards started out of position number, 6 tonight, and he's all the way at the back of the train here. So that's been a shocking start for the 15 machine as they make their way down this for the first time. Single file for everyone so far, which is what you like to see. And a couple of guys testing the limits there at the bottom of the S's, Brad. But everyone comes out unscathed. So here comes the draft train. And who can stick together to make the most good of it? Front 4 look to possibly be already making a break of it for themselves. And then we're going to have the next group of cars in behind them. And then the question is, are we going to have any stragglers, unfortunately, fall off the back? You hope not, because you don't want to see guys sort of running around on their own. But you never know, given pace differential could be... could spread out here as you watch the front of the field in particular. Look at Ray Oliver closing in with the slipstream on his teammate Kyle Ridley. Are we going to have a side-by-side at 10A10B first time round here, Brad? The answer, I think, is going to be yes, and there it is, under brakes. Comes Ray Oliver back for the race lead. Not going to let that fly after being beaten off the line. Reece Gardner has a think about going around the outside for P2, but he's going to have to slot back in line and allows almost the top 6 to stay clumped together here as Zach Edwards is going after P9, currently held by Gavin Cox, and indeed gets the job done for now through the final turn and slots a nose right across in front of Cox. Pretty aggressive cut off there to try and secure that place for himself and try and get back to where he started in this race just a lap ago. Oh dear, Linton Wells is way off in the grass, Brad. Almost joined by Reece Harnell, and Gavin Cox is around back of shot and finds the fence at pit exit. Oh, it didn't take long. Meanwhile, Reece Gardner is challenging for P2 all over again. This time he's really putting the blowtorch on the rear end of Kyle Ridley here.
Yeah, absolute chaos at the back of the pack and still chaos in the mid pack as well. Reece Gardner all over the back of Kyle Ridley, and man of many talents is Reece Gardner, and managing to, throttle one of these around at a kind of a long lap at 1:40 in race pace, but he's getting the job done, and he started where he is where he started. I apologize, it's been a long day. And managing to keep up with Kyle Ridley and Ray Oliver in front. Zach Mitchell half a second behind is still within touching distance, but not quite as close as Gardner is to Ridley. And don't know if he's quite close enough for a move here. Ridley moves over defensively just to cover that off. And this is why we like these slower cars. You've got more time to get the draft up and get those sends into corners like 10A and 10B done cleaner and with a bit more accuracy than something like a F3 or a LMP2 car that has bulk amount of downforce to go with it.
As we see here now, the boys making their way down to turn 1. 6.5 minutes on the clock for the leaders, and look at that again. Ray Oliver's got Kyle Ridley right behind him. Reece Gardner is with them still, but Zach Mitchell is keeping him honest. And looks like these 4 guys here are going to fight for that lead. Oh dear though, that's very wide by Kyle Ridley at turn 2 there at the top of the hill. Puts Reece Gardner right back on his rear bumper as they make their way down the hill again for their third trip around the circuit. He's going to have a quick look at a virtual racing school replay here, folks, and get our eyes on looks like that is going to be Dan Stevens there at the back of shot. And oh no, is Dan Stevens going to take a trip to the grass at turn number 1, Brad? I dare suspect he might. And we'll get down into the corner and, yeah, throws it in. The car actually understeers mid-corner. Oh, no, it's grabbed the grass with the rear while it was still rotating. And he, too, has found the concrete near the pit exit. And almost a carbon copy of his own teammate, Gavin Cox, there. So both of them have dropped out of the train. Meanwhile, back to live pitches in the front of the field, Brad. And looks like Reece Gardner is in prime position to have a proper move at it down at 10A. But Kyle Ridley already defending to the inside. He's going to force Reece extremely narrow, or to gamble on going around the outside. Or you know what? Kyle Ridley's going to have a go at his teammate Ray Oliver instead. So Reece is going to be in no man's land if he's not careful. But around the outside at 10A, he makes it stick. Oh, bravo, Reece. I think he's got the move done. He does. But Ridley's having a go around the outside of 11 and 12 here. But it's inviting Zach Mitchell into the play. We've got just under 5 minutes to go here.
Yeah, these guys need to be careful not to lose the back of Ray Oliver. They're still within half a second, so still within draft range. But if they keep battling, they're just going to start hemorrhaging time left, right, and center. And the top 6 have absolutely pulled away from everyone else. Or top 5, sorry. Isaac Edwards in 6th place, 7 seconds behind the tail end of this pack, which is Scott Stevens, who's just waiting patiently on the back of Zach Mitchell. And very close. Reece is still holding on to P2. Going to be really careful of Kyle Ridley coming back to him through turns 8, 9 and into turns 10, A and B. But Zach Mitchell's still thereabouts as well. And Reece Gardner still having the draft. It's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out and who goes for what moves where.
Yeah, I think that will be interesting indeed. I'm sure Reece will be under pressure here from Kyle Ridley. The 2 down under Sim Esport boys have been pretty much unchallenged when it comes to race pace, let alone their qualifying speed at the other venues we've gone to so far this year, where Slipstream has certainly been valuable as well. But it looks like this week, Reece Gardner and Zach Mitchell in particular, these 2 boys have finally found a little something to close the gap as we watch this static shot as they're about to come down the shot here at turn 9 into 10A, 10B. And look at that, Kyle Ridley shows the nose, trying to, I think, bait Reese into overdriving 10A. Maybe a little deeper than ideal. Certainly does put Gardner on the back foot. And yep, there we go. That was certainly, I reckon, a little bit of a fake-out attempt from Kyle Ridley, and it looks to have worked quite nicely indeed. He's going to aim for a crisscross underneath, but Reese, I think, keeps the foot in it through the final turn and barely gotten nothing left in it as they come across the line. They should have 3 laps to go here, I think. Yes, they will have 3 laps to go as they come up the hill, because they've come up now, and Ridley, towards turn 2, was there, but Gardner late on the brakes. He's going to try and keep his foot in it and take the grass for good measure while he's at it. Looks like he's going to get away with that one there. No slowdown, but they keep fighting like this and scrapping between P2. Just going to give Ray Oliver that breathing room he needs to hang on to the race lead and most likely secure another race win for himself here.
Yeah, I think Reese followed Ray Oliver over that curb through turns, I think that was turn 3 at the start of the S's proper, and just caught him out a little bit. Thankfully, Ridley and Mitchell just far enough away not to get involved physically, but gained a load of time through that section of the track. Zach Mitchell just doesn't quite have the pace out of the S's into turn 6 and 7 to get into the position on the back of Ridley to make a move. But if Gardner and Ridley have it coming together at turn 10 and turn A and B, then Mitchell's going to be able to capitalise on that, as will Stevens. Edwards and Harnell probably not. As we see the move, can Reese hold it on the inside this time? We saw him go the long way around. Zach Mitchell might give him a bump up the hill to get the job done and follow him through for good measure, but not quite close enough. Side by side still, Mitchell there lurking in the background, but can Reese hold it down the inside for turn 1? I think he can. Mitchell might try and follow him through as well, just for good measure.
And while that's happening, the gap is blown out to 1.4 seconds, so now he should be clear at the front of the field. Ray Oliver there in the 99 car. Don't think there'll be much of a slipstream opportunity, so I think now certainly Kyle Ridley has thrown the dice and sealed the group's fate. They're fighting for P2, not the race win, because I don't see Ray Oliver making a mistake anytime soon based on his track record in these cars. Well, we just saw there as they came across the start-finish line, green flag still held down by Barney's side, and Reese is out to the edge of the track there. Turn 5 officially is what that one is, so great to see America knows how to count unnecessary corners, but also count corners as nothing at all at the same time. So gotta love the American cornering system, as always. It's an obligatory comment I love to make when we're visiting American circuits here on the iRacing service, because, well, it just makes for a good time all round. So looks like we're gonna have ourselves maybe a 4-way fight for P2 here if Scott Stevens at the back of the group here, Brad, can catch on. But they're going to have one more lap at it. Looks like they've all spread out a little bit here, so I doubt we'll see anything into 10A this time by, sorry. At least not between the 2nd through 6th battle, but maybe here for P6. The next pair of cars, Isaac Edwards and Reese Harnell. Harnell pulling to the inside of 10A, as we see there in the front, on the background, a shot there. The fight continues for P2, but nothing much happening this time of it, because we need to focus on this. Harnell goes to the inside 10A. Isaac Edwards gives him all of the room in the world. I think Edwards there, possibly a little bit too cautious with the defense, has just given away the spot there, as white flag flies now for their first race here in Jetta Cup. And Gardner is still under pressure from Ridley, but this could be a different here. Up the inside, potentially at turn 3 for the 27. No, he's not able to get there. Gardner brings the car across, shuts that door off before it becomes an opportunity to down the S's for the final time in this first race they come. Now, it looks like it's all going to be about setting up for the back straight for one last slipstream dash, but, well, that gap looks close, and actually, no, Ridley now, he's really putting the foot in it there. That's a good run off turn 5, Brad. He's putting himself in prime position to challenge. Thinks about turn 6, but nothing of it. He's going to have to go the long way around if he wants to make that stick. Surely he backs out now to set up the run down the back straight.
Reese nearly runs him out of room. He's making it more difficult than is needed. Gets a good run side by side out of the corner though, but now he doesn't have a draft, and side draft is there, but nothing compared to the front to rear bumper and Reese is going to have to go the long way around turn 10A again, which of course does give him the inside for 10B, but that doesn't guarantee anything in any car around here. Sorry, in the V8s, and then this Zach Mitchell's going to make it 3 wide, just because why not? I mean, if you're going to pick up one position, you might as well go for 2 and 1, and he's gotten past Reese. Reese is going on the grass. He might get up the inside of Ridley as well. This is going to be so close between these two, but Ray Oliver comes across the line relatively uncontested for him. We're going to get the side-by-side. Zach Mitchell's still there. This is going to be close.
It's the line that covered. It was Kyle Ridley to hang on to the second place finish there at the line by 0.02 of a second. Oh, he almost had it there. In fact, 0.016 the time at the line to be precise, and there it is on screen for you folks. Well, he gave it his all, but I think trying to make it 3 wide was his undoing there. And Reese Gardner, unfortunately, drops back to 5th place in all of that. Brad, pushing a little bit too deep into 10A, puts it in the grass and has to clear the car up through 10B and compromise the speed on the line. Out of the corner, excuse me, I've got a really bad case of the stuffy nose. I'm going to leave you to run through the results for this one here.
No problem. Ray Oliver gets a nice, comfortable 3-second lead over his teammate Kyle Ridley, although not quite like previous rounds. That was anything but run-of-the-mill for those guys. Zach Mitchell comes home in 3rd place by 1/100th of a second. Scott Stevens manages to get 4th place from Reese Gardner in the end. Patient as he was, it worked out perfectly for him. Reese Harnell and Isaac Edwards finish in 6th and 7th. Linton Wheels in 8th place. Dan Stevens and Gavin Cox unfortunately running into issues very early, finish in 9th and 10th. Well, that was one bit of racing, and we're back at it again with 0 delay, and fantastically it's a reverse grid race, so this is going to be anything but normal for these guys today.
Absolutely indeed. Well, the fun thing with a complete reverse grid race is the safety car will technically be on pole position, so that spot will be left vacant for Henry King, which means Gavin Cox and Dan Stevens will get the chance to redeem themselves, but they will be on different rows of the grid, technically speaking, so we're going to have to count things a little bit differently there. So certainly, I think those two guys will be ones to watch if they can have a look at things there. But let's have a quick look at the VRS replay across the start-finish line in a moment's time. And, from that camera angle, you'd be hard-pressed to tell until right about now we can just see there Kyle Ridley keeping his nose ahead of Mitchell there. So I think Mitchell, in that case, maybe a little too respectful, if that's such a thing, when you're coming through the last corner of on the last lap of a race there. Maybe could have dared to stick the elbows out and give a car's width and a car's width only to Ridley there on the outside, but got another chance to do it all over again. 15 minutes race is going to be on the clock here in about a minute's time when they go to the grid. And yet we are going to keep the gridding process nice and short for this one here, because it's indeed a full reverse grid for this feature race. So once again, we'll have to ignore the absent P1. So our front row is effectively Gavin Cox and Daniel Stevens. Linton Wills and Isaac Edwards will make up what is going to be row 2. And then Reese Harnell, Reese Gardner locking out row 3. Scott Stevens, Zach Mitchell for the 4th row. And then Kyle Ridley, Ray Oliver will make it 5 rows of Jettas once again. Just slightly offset from where they started race 1. And for the guys at the back of the field, they're going to have to work their way through this group at the front. But given their pace, they should be able to quite comfortably do so. They've got a little bit more time, of course, in this race. So we hope to see the boys at the back are sensible with the way they make their way through to the front here, Brad.
Yeah, we would hope so. We're about 6 seconds from finding out by the time the lights go green and go out again, and we'll listen closely for the engines to rise, and they're there somewhere amongst the mosquitoes. And
they're there.
Lights go out, and away we go. Much cleaner start for everyone this time by getting away evenly. Isaac getting off the line a lot better than he did last race. We're already 3 wide into turn 1. Dan Stevens leading the way from Linton Wills and Gavin Cox dropping back to 3rd place. Isaac Edwards looking for a nice early move on him as well. But Reese Harnell is right in the mix, and Reese Gardner is making that 3 abreast coming around the outside of turn 2. And Isaac Edwards is just getting left absolutely to dry like he's on his own on a super speedway. And so far though, we're relatively clean. Zach Mitchell trying to make moves early as well as he gets past Scott Stevens for 7th place, and he's got a mirror full of Kyle Ridley already.
Yep, the boys are certainly at it. No time to spare. Linton Wills, an ambitious attempt to go around the outside. He actually makes it stick on Gavin Cox at least, but Dan Stevens makes that work there at the front of the field as well. So plenty of guys up 2 spots straight away. Stevens and Wills, Reece Harnell and Reece Gardner both up 2, and Zach Mitchell also up 2. A couple of guys losing out some spots, and Henry King. Actually, that explains why people are up +2 quite a bit, because Henry King has gone from 1st place on the grid to 11th and non-existent on the circuit as we stay on board here with the 222 of Reece Harnell. He's looking to pressure Gavin Cox for P3. Meanwhile, Linton Wills is going after the race lead off Dan Stevens, so side by side in box formation for 1st and 3rd we go through 10A and 10B. Stevens tries to hang it around the outside, and he does, and that checks up this group of cars behind, and look at them all scrapping it out. And look at that, Ray Oliver, I think, picking up some serious tyre smoke through the last couple. Look at this, we're 2 by 2 still. So look at them go across the line here in formation. Just a little bit out of grid positions here as the first lap is done, Brad, but certainly these guys are playing for sheep stations. Oh, Gavin Cox throws the rear out at turn 1 once again. He's got Reece Gardner takes advantage, so does Zach Mitchell, splitting the hairs, going around him on both sides. So 555 sees himself fall back down the field a bit here. Not what he would want, but now it's Dan Stevens with Reece Harnell pressuring him for the race lead.
Oh boy, I didn't even commentate that, and I still got to catch my breath. So this is why we love these slow cars. I'll say it time and time again, but downforce is overrated, because in a reverse grid race you can't have this sort of racing when you're so reliant on aero holding you to the ground. And Zach Mitchell's smack bang in the middle of this, equal cars in front and behind, and he's just stuck. It's a draft train behind him, and he's got a slight gap back to Gavin Cox behind him. Reece Gardner's managed to get back through on him as well, but it's anything but smooth sailing. On board with Isaac Edwards now in 7th place, trying to make a move for position on Gavin Cox, but Kyle Ridley's right there as well, so it's not quite 3 wide that we saw in the last lap, but Isaac Edwards up the inside and now trying to go around the outside. Gets a bit of oversteer somehow, but 3 wide on exit, and Kyle Ridley's just, thank you very much, I'll take all 3 of those. It's still 3 wide. All this contact.
There it is.
That was inevitable, and that's big contact. I don't know if we'll get the safety car, but that was inevitable. I'm surprised we got as far as we did before an incident like that occurred.
Meanwhile, back at the front of the field, they're still going. Somehow, we haven't had any chaos for those guys yet. Unfortunately, Gavin Cox and Scott Stevens, victims of the ambition there at the final turn. And, well, 3 wide through that corner isn't going to work in many car classes, and we'll just add the Jetta Cup to that one as well for good measure. As we see now, 27 of Kyle Ridley has been unleashed to hunt down this lead pack. And, well, look at that. Zach Mitchell, an absolute shocker off the bottom of the S's, and he's actually... Ridley's already got a nose ahead down towards turn 6, and Mitchell's got nothing for him here, so he's going to have to slot back in line. And got P3 in race number 1, pardon me. And our race winner, Ray Oliver, is still back there, just getting round. Isaac Edwards as Edwards goes for the curb clamber of the race, gets that car bouncing up to and almost on its side there, I should say. But now, watch out for the 27 and 99. They've started to pick off the back markers of sorts, but they're still very much in this train. And, 3.5 seconds and 1.5 seconds off the race lead. They'll be there in a moment's notice, especially if the race lead is contested like this. Into 10A goes Reece Harnell, throws it in about as deep as you want. Reece Gardner's going to go for the over and under there on the exit at 10B, and he drags Linton Wills along with him. So the 842 car is going to challenge, I reckon, for P2 here if he's he tries to challenge for P2. But Harnell holds it around the outside, so going to have to tuck back in line. Just under 10 minutes to go, which means touch and go as to we get another 7 laps here if we're going to have to stick with 6. But either way, that's Mitchell on the grass at turn 1. Another lawnmower special for the VW Jettas. And unfortunately, interesting, the other side of the 54 has picked up some bodywork damage to go along with that as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure when that happened, but your guess is as good as mine. I think us both being drop air drivers are going to need John Deere as a sponsor soon, with how much Mitchell's been in the gravel.
Oh no!
Who was that?
That's Dan Stevens in the fence at the exit of the S's. Oh, he was doing quite nicely, hanging in with the front group there, and oh wow! Never mind Dan Stevens. Would you like to know something shocker of the race? I forgot these things were super fragile. But our first mechanical black flag, meatball of the race, has been issued, and it's just gone to Carl Ridley in the 27 for that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was not much, and the fact that Ridley hit Stevens, but Stevens hit the wall and is fine, is absolutely bonkers, and all four wheels in the air. He nearly got it stopped as well. It's just a glancing blow, thankfully. Mitchell was far enough back and wide enough to not get cleaned up in that as well, because that could have been very ugly. But of course, with a mechanical black flag, that does mean that Carl really is going to have to come in and get that fixed soon. So his race is as good as over, unfortunately for him. But he's still going to push that on as long as he can, try and help his teammate get up through the field. And I think that's Reese Gardner off track. He is. He's just been hit from behind. That was just a little bit of an upset bump from who was in second?
Reese Harnell.
The slightest of touch on the brakes, and it just sent Reese over and understeering through turn one.
And oh yeah, look at that there with the into the left rear of Gardner's car. Linton Will says, "I'll take the race lead." That sounds very nice indeed. And Reese Harnell has all kinds of look. It's absolutely bedlam out there, Brad. We've decided to dispatch with all kinds of good driving and, well, it's not saying good driving, clean driving and care. And it's become an absolute brawl as Daniel Stevens has picked up an iRacing black flag, which must be for incident point accumulation around here. 20x limit in these sessions, but the black flag is next to his name. Unless he got a slow down that lap and didn't serve it in time, that's the only other reason he'd have one, because nothing's come through from race control. You can see there, these guys are still going at it. Problem is, the more they scrap like this, they're just allowing people at the front of the field to chill out and break away. As surprise, surprise, both Ray Oliver and Carl Ridley have made it to the very front of the field. Linton Wills is still there, but he's going to have to slot into P2 because Ray Oliver's got the job done before they make the turn in for 10-8. And now these guys who were fighting over the race lead in the first half of the race, they've now got to settle in for backmarker spots. And there's two cars we have to see come down the pit lane. The question is when? Not yet for either of them. Although, pardon me, Dan Stevens is going to make that one car down the lane. A little, with Carl really still up there, fighting over P2, but he's going to have to come in soon. Linton Wills, though, a little loose on the exit curve at T1. Was the 842. Ridley goes through, but that is a ticking time position. And we'll see Wills and Gardner slip back. I'm going to look at it on the VRS replay here, Brad. And look, he actually goes narrow into turn one to try and defend the spot, which is totally unnecessary, as it turns out. And yep, just gets that left rear in the grass. And that almost sends him spinning around like a pirouette. Thankfully, straightens the car back out on exit there and carries on with Reese Gardner now on his tail. Those two guys, obviously, though they need to work together, try and catch Ray Oliver if you can. Although, if race one was any metric to go by, I doubt that's going to be an easy task, if they especially if they keep squabbling.
Yeah, well, Reese Gardner, I think, is kind of in the prime position to make this move. He wasn't too close at the apex of turn 7, so he's got enough space to really be brought up to the back of that Jetta in front and make the move into 10A and 10B. Just depends on if Linton Wills will give the space that Reese needs to make the move cleanly, and Reese decides not to go for it yet. Reese will have the pace over the course of the lap, but it's just whether he can break the draft after the move is done. And if Linton Wills makes another mistake, it'll be easier for him again. But we've seen it time and time again, as slow as these cars are, as grip limited as they are, passes are not necessarily easy to make. So it's going to be interesting to see how, never mind. I don't know if you count that as a commentator curse, because I did say it could happen, and it has happened. So is that a commentator's prediction, or what are we going to call that?
Yeah, no, curse sounds far more terrifying and threatening. So Let's go with the curse. Unfortunately, Linton Wills puts it in the grass. He did that in race 1 earlier, and looks like history was doomed to repeat itself under a bit of pressure there from Reese Gardner in the 94. And the 842 decides to join the Mowers Club of Jetta Cup and check out the outside of Turn 1, like so many. Now, the question on our eyes here in the commentary box is, how long does Kyle Ridley flirt with the mechanical black flag, the meatball he has on his name? He has put something in the chat that said pitting out. Now, that is probably a mistake of some kind. If anything, it's meant to say pitting in if he actually meant to press it. But, well, he's been past the pit lane, I believe, twice at least. This will be, I believe, the third time past the pit lane since that mechanical black flag was issued. So he can't afford, I don't think, to stay out here. Otherwise, that mechanical black flag will transition into an iRacing DQ, and that won't be corrected by the race control team for in this race. So does the 27 peel off to the pit lane? It certainly looks like it. Yes, he does. So unfortunately, Kyle Ridley heads to the pit lane, and given the time left on the clock, we won't be seeing him back out on track. Should have, almost, we could get 2 laps to go at the line next time by. It's going to be touch and go, so it could be a 9-lap race, could be a 10-lap race, but never mind that, because we've got ourselves Zach Mitchell and Linton Wills going at it through Turn 1. Both of these guys have seen some mowing on the outside, but neither of them accidentally goes out past track limits this time by Brad. So Mitchell, though, hangs on to that place, I believe. Although, actually, sorry, he was ahead. They're actually going back and forth the past couple of laps here, so... Oh, wow, Ridley's already back out of the pits. He's served the mechanical black flag already.
I guess
well, that was quick.
I was going to say, they must be very easy to break and very easy to fix, because he's managed to do both of those quite efficiently. He's not too far gone down in, well, he's in 9th position, but that's a lot better than I was kind of expecting. I expected him to be in there for the rest of the race, but he's already making a move on Gavin Cox up into turn 6, so that'll be 8th place for him if he can get it done, and Reese Harnell, Scott Stevens, just up the road from him, so he might be able to get one more position depending on how many laps we have left. But Mitchell and Wills further up the field, last podium position. Mitchell going inside early, trying to defend that position. Will not quite run Linton out of road, but it's going to keep him tight, and that works out in his end. Linton going very deep into 10A, and Zach Mitchell managing to breeze past through 10B. So we are on the final lap, we believe. That's what our overlay says. That's what you see. So Barney the flag man, getting his NFL arm ready, is waving that white flag again. It's pretty calm out in front, but then you get into the mid-pack, and Reese Harnell, Scott Stevens, Reese Harnell and Isaac Edwards are all over each other.
That they are indeed. Final lap of the race, and looks like we've got ourselves plenty of pairs to battle with. Starting here with Edwards and Harnell as they fight over P5 here. Both these guys, this would be a solid result for either of them. Just the question is, who's going to walk away with top 5 next to their name after this race? I'm reliably informed, Brad, that, well, the likely mechanical black flag was somehow a tyre-related black flag for Kyle Ridley. Would be the likely explanation as to why that was cleared so quickly. And so a quick tyre change for him would solve that problem, although it does ask the question of how on earth did he absolutely destroy a set of tyres when they've only been going for 15 minutes, not even when he got that mechanical black flag. But we'll have to ask that question another time later, because here comes Harnell up the outside. It's going to be at 10A on Edwards, so the question is, can he get that thing pulled up in time to make that the position game match? He's already clear of Edwards before the braking zone. Edwards is going to have to fire it back up the inside under brakes, which he does. We'll have to come back to that afterwards, because here comes Ray Oliver. He's going to make it 2 from 2 race wins in the Jetta Cup. Reese Gardner's going to make it another podium spot for him to redeem himself after race 1 and the mistake there at the end. Zach Mitchell runs out of podium, and Edwards is able to get back past Reese Harnell to take a top 5 finish. Meanwhile, Ridley's fighting with Stevens. 10A, 10B they go. Looks like Ridley's got the job done, and indeed he's clear of Stevens over the hill at turn 11. And down the hill they come to finish their race. And a little bit of redemption up to P7 for the 27 after having to come into the pits unexpectedly in that race there, Brad. Well, we can now show the results on the screen, and a little bit closer in that race, though. Certainly plenty of drivers a little bit behind where they want to be. But Ray Oliver comes from the back to make it a last to first reverse grid win. Had a Reece Gardner there in second place, quite comfortably in the end. Zach Mitchell hangs on to third place ahead of Linton Wills in fourth after the mowing expeditions for those guys there. Isaac Edwards holding on to his P5 position there ahead of Reece Harnell in sixth. Carl really recovers from the mechanical black flag for seventh place there. Scott Stevens just behind him, unfortunately. Eighth place will have to do for the 551. And then unfortunately Gavin Cox and Dan Stevens, they started out the front. Certainly all the potential that they would have wanted, but a very messy race. 25 incidents for Dan Stevens, well over the 20x limit, and certainly not the way he would have wanted his race to go here tonight, Brad.
No, definitely not, and that's just unfortunately how it goes sometimes. We will be going to a short break very soon, but this is what we were giggling about earlier. I saw Zach Mitchell do very similar, just not quite as extreme as this, and this is Isaac Edwards. Isaac Edwards, if I could English, absolutely monstering the curb at turn 7, and this was so close to a rollover. I was going to say it's not even funny, but it is. It's hilarious. This is why we love these cars, because that's a lot of airtime, and it kind of just keeps on going.
Well, look at it. Hangs up quite nicely, and actually second bounce off the curb, Brad. So it decided once wasn't up. In fact, look, it's going to get a little third bounce for good measure. The springs just keeping the energy in it going and going. But, well, keeps that car under control for him, thankfully, and keeps on racing. And even gets a little bit of a skid on for good measure. So trying to get some rear end traction loss, but a bit hard on the car that powers the front wheels. We'll take another quick break here at SimSpeed TV. Stay with us if you can, please, because the second race of the V8s is just around the corner.
What does it take to win? Is it something you're born with? Is it the grind? Every day. Gear up. Do battle. For the 10,000th time. Or is it pushing to your absolute limits? To be faster. Always faster. Insanely precise. Totally free and at one with the game. Or maybe it's just getting to that place where nothing else matters. Nothing in the way of winning.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the Logitech G V8SCOPS Support Series here at Road Atlanta for the fourth round of the 2022 V8SCOPS season. My name is Daniel Yeaman and I'm going to have Brad Wingard staying in the comms box, but I'm welcoming back Reese Gardner to take over for the second of the V8 races here tonight for this support category at the Road Atlanta circuit tonight. So Reese, after your races in the Jetta Cup, well done by the way on some decent results. Unfortunately, race one there may be a little bit behind where you wanted to be after that fighting down to the bitter end at the end of that one. But a solid feature race result there with a P2 result for your name there at the end of that one.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that, honestly. At least I finished both races, unlike last time out at Mosport. Thanks very much for filling in for me, Daniel. We'll let you get to the things that you need to get to, and we'll get ready for the second race of the V8s tonight, Brad. This is going to be a fun one. 20 laps once again with a compulsory pit stop, and, as with the Jettas, a complete reverse grid. This is going to be chaotic.
Yeah, it definitely is, and we'll see the grid now. This was the results from race one, so reverse the video if you want to hear the grid in its proper order, although I'm not going to say the names backwards because that's way too much. Aaron Gilbert, Henry King and James Anderson was obviously the podium, so they'll start in 22nd, 21st and 20th. Isaac Edwards, of course, unfortunately, he was the safety car, so same thing as the grid. Tim Nichol, after his very unfortunate incident in race one, will start on the front row with Troy Sipple, and it's going to be very interesting. Like you said, the pit stop's definitely going to change it up from the Jettas a little bit, because a lot of guys are going to be using that to try and jump those around them as they come through the field, and twice the size of grid and 20 seconds a lap faster. This is going to be so hard and fast, and it's going to be so good to watch.
Indeed, we got 4 minutes left until the session ticks over into the race, and race admins will advance. In terms of the pit stop, it follows the same requirement as mandatory pit stops at previous rounds. You must pit for 2 tyres. Now, whatever tyres those are is entirely up to you, but I would suspect here in the V8s, with the amount of power that's going through all of these rear wheels, you'd want to take rear tyres, but we'll have to wait and see if some drivers decide to go for a car with a bit more turn in at the end by taking front tyres. Having a neutral car, having one that doesn't doesn't understeer much is very important at Road Atlanta, as I found out in the Jettas. Let's go through the grid then. Starting on the front row tonight is going to be Tim Nicol. Isaac Edwards is there in the safety car. Troy Sipple on that first row with Nathan Tregarthen. Alongside him, Anthony Green and Daniel Norris will take up the third row on the grid. Then it's Lance Childs and Thomas Riley, 7th and 8th. Dylan Thomas, Cruz Mason, Reese Harnell and Dion DeGraff round out the top 11 cars.
Craig Mason and Jordan Gallagher in row 7. Stephen Kennedy and Darian Crosby on row 8. Gavin Cox and Simon Mizzomo in row 9. Daniel Stevens, James Anderson, Henry King and Aaron Gilbert round out the grid. And unlike the Jettas, a lot of these guys at the front of the field had really awful race ones, so they're going to be in a prime position to capitalize on this race, and it's going to be so interesting to see how this plays out.
Well, the revs are rising. We're getting started pretty quickly. Tim Nicol's going to lead them away. The green flag flies, and we are racing. A bit of wheel spin there for Tim Nicol. It's a better start from Troy Sipple, and a good start also from Nathan Tregarthen. They're going to go too wide into turn 1 for second place. Nicol trying to get Sipple back around the outside. Doesn't work out for him. Lance Childs is going to slot into P4. Excellent start for him, gaining 1 position off the start, but it's looking a bit chaotic further back in the field. Simon Mizzomo getting it done on Reese Harnell as they make their way down through the S's for the first time. Lots of too wide running here up the back. Our race 1 leaders are mired behind this pack. Look at that. Jordan Gallagher going side by side with Craig Mason. Also got Darren Crosby and Daniel Stevens with them as well. And not to mention, we got Thomas Riley trying to keep them behind, but it's on for the lead. And oh dear, there's a spinner. And it looks like still on the track is Lance Childs. That is a big problem for him there. Looks like contact with Nathan Tregarthen was what set that one off.
Yeah, it was a very unfortunate accident between the two of them. The gap in front of Childs closed down really quickly, and Tregarthen just didn't really have anywhere to go. And absolute nightmare of a night for him. 2 good positions just absolutely ruined so early on, but hopefully he can kind of capitalize the time as we see more moves through the pack. These are the guys that we're going to be watching very closely towards the end of the race. And catching my breath. Simon Mizzomo is already up to 6th place after starting 18th on lap 1. That's an insane first lap for Mizzomo. And what a way to make the most of a reverse grid. Of course, it's only the end of lap 1, but that's about as good as you can get. And that was a big lockup. Either 222 of Reese Harnell into turn 2. All of the 2s coming together, but not in the right way. And now Dan Stevens and Aaron Gilbert going side by side down the S's. We did say it was possible, but ill-advised, but they managed to do it just well enough. And now they're going to go side by side with Darren Crosby further up the field as well.
Well, Virtual Racing School replay of what happened to Harnell. Goodness me, so lucky not to take anybody else out with that one. And then there was some further troubles here for the 888 of Thomas Riley. Ended up just slightly messing up there. That was a big helping of oversteer. What on earth happened there? Looked like a bit of wheel spin going into an overcorrection, unless he caught the grass. Let's see what happened here. Whoa, there we go. Well held, and definitely good on him to keep it straight, though he has lost quite a bit of time over the grass. Now, in terms of our race 1 leaders, Aaron Gilbert and Henry King, well, they're trying their best to make their way through here as Nathan Tregarthen loses a position there to Cruz Mason. Mason now up into 3rd place. Good stuff there. And Simon Mizzomo continuing to try and work his way past. Early pitter here, Jordan Gallagher in the number 99. And now that it's past the end of lap 2, you are able to come into the pit lane. The 818, meanwhile, the Dylan Thomas fighting with Daniel Norris for P7. Going to go side by side through there, and it's an over-under. Oh my goodness, airborne goes Dylan Thomas, and all of those drivers let by immediately. Trying to take advantage is Craig Mason. He's going to sweep around the outside of Daniel Norris, and Daniel Stevens in the MFR number 3 does the same thing as, goodness me, more side-by-side action. Aaron Gilbert trying desperately to find his way past James Anderson. This is a position he's very familiar with.
I think that was James Anderson absolutely sent it into turn 7 on Aaron Gilbert. I don't know how he got the thing stopped in time, but he did. But more importantly, Henry King is right behind Gilbert now, giving him a little bit of a push down the straight. Not much. Gilbert just pulling out of that move last second. And we love reverse grid races because they always throw up action, but this is just another level. Like, there is all big dramas ahead. That was a good save. I think that was Stevens managing to get that one saved on the grass, and he leads this mid-pack, but these guys have absolutely no space between them.
Oh dear! Henry King! Jesus, Mary, Joseph, Abraham, and Isaac. How are these guys holding on to it? This is ridiculous right now. Henry King trying his best to find his way past Daniel Norris, just not able to get it done. Let's have a look at the onboard then here from Henry King in the Jinx Shifters machine. This is going to be some fantastic racing here. King just reeling himself up to the back of this pack. And then there was the side-by-side there as Craig Mason maybe went for a little bit of a tilt. Quite interesting seeing this big battle pack. And they would have all come together at the end of the straight. This is how they all stand now. Aaron Gilbert making his way now past Craig Mason. Daniel Stevens, the next one up the road. Tim Nicol and Troy Sipple have absolutely driven away from everyone else. Nicol leads by 4.7 seconds over Troy Sipple, and Simon Mazzomo is a further 1.2 seconds behind. And Mazzomo under a lot of pressure still from Nathan Tregarthen. That's how the field is as they stream through the final turn. Now, our director Jay Kennedy asked what happened with Stephen Kennedy and Gavin Cox. I can answer that question. They didn't start the cars on the grid. They were just left at a standstill while everyone else pulled away. It's worth reminding, and it's something I've had to deal with myself in the past in the V8SCOPS Support Series. You have to turn on the car yourself. It doesn't auto-start. Got to have ignition and starter mapped. Simon Mazzomo then, out of turn 5. Let's see how he goes here. Trying to keep Nathan Tregarthen behind him. These guys are catching Troy Sipple. It's now down to 7/10 as into the pits comes Thomas Riley, who we saw having a big old slide before, taking those 2 tyres. Be interesting to see whether he decided to take rears or fronts. Either way, he is away. And it looks like he might have taken all 4 tyres. 9.7 seconds for Jordan Gallagher's pit stop, 9.9 for Thomas Riley. The racing still continues here, meanwhile. Stevens, Gilbert, and Anderson in a line. Meanwhile, this is the battle for second. Troy Sipple now having to face Simon Mazzomo, and Nathan Tregarthen breathing down his neck as Gilbert tried one on Daniel Stevens there. But the veteran MFR competitor is not willing to get it done there as it's into the pits for Aaron Gilbert. Let's see how this works out for him. Just managed to get it slowed down in time. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, that's Reese Harnell. Unfortunate there for the Harnell Motorsport driver. Might he request a tow? Might there be a safety car? He's at the entry to pit lane, so I don't think there will be. Simon Mazzomo trying to make his way past. That is heavy damage to Reese Harnell. It's so difficult to get the pit entry right here at Road Atlanta. But let's see how this battle for second works out, Brad.
Yeah, I did say at the top of the show that pit entry might catch a few people out, and it only took us 6 laps of the CPS race to get that drama. I don't know if that'll be the last. I sure hope not for these guys' sake, but Tregarthen is really not dropping this case as quickly as I thought Simon might make him. Reese Harnell has retired from the race. Now, that was substantial damage, so I don't really blame him. But Mazzomo all over the back of Troy Sipple now. He's going to go to the inside nice and early, and Sipple is definitely... Oh, he comes back a little bit, but I think he knows that that's not his fight. So Tregarthen's getting up the inside now as well. So Sipple really letting those go quite easily. So now Simon Mazzomo has 7.8 seconds, 7.5 seconds to find on Tim Nicol in the next 13.5 laps. So we see James Anderson coming into the pits trying to cover
Aaron Gilbert.
Aaron Gilbert, yes, thank you. I was looking for the number, but I couldn't find it. So he's in 10A and 10B now. So it's going to be very interesting to see where Anderson comes out and if this has worked in Gilbert's favour or if it's worked in Anderson's favour.
Anderson is joined in the pits by the 55 of Stephen Kennedy, who we mentioned had a dead car on the start. Aaron Gilbert coming down the start finish straight into turn 1 now. Anderson's going to exit the pits almost alongside him here, just ahead. So this is interesting. Aaron Gilbert's going to have the advantage of tyres that are up to temperature already, but it's the undercut has not worked for him. James Anderson still ahead.
Now I guess it's eyes forward to Henry King, similar pace. I was going to say no one till Simon Mazzomo, he had the fastest lap, but he doesn't anymore, so that point is mute. Henry King has the fastest lap at a 1:19.9, so it's going to be interesting to see if he pits now, trying to overcut both drivers. He is stuck behind Dan Stevens at the moment. Stuck is a bit rude, so I apologise to Stevens, but he is behind Dan Stevens at the moment and chugging along, so maybe trying to make that overcut work, have those fresh tyres towards the end of the race. But Gilbert and Anderson now, they are fighting with Jordan Gallagher as well and trying to make quick time of that. That's kind of worked in Anderson's favour as Gallagher gets in the way of Gilbert, really slows him down, checks him up on exit to boot. So that's really helped Anderson get his tyres up to temp with a little bit of breathing room as well.
Yeah, a little bit of intra-team conflict there at ANZ Motorsports. The Jinx Shifters and ANZ squads are part of the same racing organisation, but it'll be water under the bridge for those guys. Here's Darren Crosby trying to chase down Anthony Green for 9th place. Green once again running those pink wheels in memory of Kimmy, the Kimmy in Kimmy's Rural Fencing, which gives his team its name. And they're chasing down Dylan Thomas at the moment, who's had plenty of dramas here tonight. Let's see how they work themselves out. I tell you what, it's interesting to note as these guys come down to turn 10. This guy here, Tim Nicol, he is still leading by 6.8 seconds. Simon Mazzomo has not been able to make a dent in the lead that Nicol has right now. And if you want to know who's the leader of the cars that have pitted, it's James Anderson running down in 14th as there goes Troy Sipple into the pit lane. More drivers coming in towards the halfway mark.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me as I get caught on my own saliva. Now is the time to pit because you've got one lap until halfway when your tyres are up to temp by then, and you've got a couple of laps advantage over those who have already pitted, but you're not really having to drag the tyres out to the end of the race. 20 laps around here is not a whole lot of time, but, you know, pitting on lap 2 compared to lap 17 is still a significant difference, and Henry King really trying to get past Dan Stevens now. I wonder if he'll come in for the pits or if what Dan Stevens is thinking, anything that Dan Stevens can do to hold King up is only going to benefit him in the later half of this race. So it's really down. It's Stevens is cool, I guess. If Steven pits, then King will stay out. If Stevens stay out, then King will have to pit because at the moment it's working in Stevens' favor. Oh, not when he does that though.
No, that's cost Henry King. I'll be surprised if he doesn't dive for the pits right here. There he goes. Henry King into the lane, and Stevens is going in ahead of him. So they both pitted at the same time, and that's caused massive drama. Daniel Stevens getting into the wall on pit entry. Henry King had absolutely nowhere to go.
An instant replay to boot. We're going to get all of this action right on board with King now. That was the complete opposite of what we're used to seeing with Dan Stevens. Dan gives him plenty of room on the inside, gives him pretty much a lane and a half, but locks the brakes and really checks Henry up, manages to catch it, thankfully. Both drivers opting to pit, and this is where it all goes wrong. Stevens is in the lane, and then that bump just throws him off. King didn't really do much better either. That wasn't Stevens' fault, I don't think. That was just King making a very similar mistake, and now both cars with meatballs. I think that day's done.
Oh my goodness, that's a huge shame for those guys. It was such a nice battle they were having. Were it for, a little bit earlier on the brakes, a little bit more gentle on the brakes into the pit lane, we could be looking at a very different race between those two. Well, Tregarthen still holding on to third place with Craig Mason in hot pursuit. Let's see what they do coming up to the lane entry. Not going to go for the stop this time. We still have the top 8 cars yet to come in for a pit stop. That's a good exit, meanwhile, for Mason. He's going to dive up the inside of Tregarthen at the entry to turn 1. Can Tregarthen hold the outside? Mason gives him plenty of room, but I think he will have the advantage coming into turn 2, and he indeed does. So, one more position then for Craig Mason as Darren Crosby and Anthony Green are now in the pit lane from 6th and 7th position, respectively. And there is Aaron Gilbert and James Anderson making their way through the top 2 cars that have pitted so far. And I gotta wonder, with Tim Nicol continuing to extend his gap in the lead over Simon Mazzomo, Tim Nicol might be an outside shot at a podium, at the very least a top 5. It's been a really good drive from the number 23 as these guys are now coming up on a little bit of traffic. Cruz Mason, not pitted yet. This is for position. And, oh man, Gilbert just can't find a way past Anderson, can he? Just putting his car in all the right places, but Gilbert's going to dive up the inside of turn 7. This is an interesting place to go for a move. They're going to be level on the exit, but now Gilbert is able to slot into the slipstream. Let's see if he can get by Anderson at turn 1. Meanwhile, Simon Mazzomo has come into the pits from 2nd up ahead of these guys. That is a good draft there from Aaron Gilbert. A really good run down the back stretch. Will Anderson try to take it back here? No. He's going to let Gilbert go this time. Probably put some pressure on him towards the end.
Yeah, that was very similar, although roles reversed, for how Anderson actually got through Gilbert in the first place early on in the race to dive into turn 7. Now he's got a nice draft down turn 1. The gap to the lead is 36 seconds for both of them. A lot of pit stops are around that 33 to 34 seconds, so Tim Nicol might not be a shot for a podium. He might be a shot for the win at this rate. We've got 9 laps to go, and that gap is right on the brink of having enough to cover a pit stop. So if he gets a flawless in-lap pit stop and out, like pit exit, he could have a 2-second lead over these guys with a handful of laps to go. So I'm sure he's watching that delta as closely as I have been, because that's a very small margin of victory, and I'm sure he'll take that if he can, because he absolutely deserved that good result last race and didn't get it. So if these guys keep fighting, that's just going to work in his favor as well. And Anderson's managed to get back through when punch time came earlier than expected.
Yep, here we go then. They're into the lane. Craig Mason in, Nathan Tregarthen and Cruz Mason are the only cars yet to come into the lane. Pointed out by Jay Kennedy. Nicol was 7 seconds ahead of Simon Mazzomo. Mazzomo is 2 seconds behind this battle between Anderson and Gilbert. So Nicol could effectively be 5 seconds clear. He's already off the jacks and out of the pit lane. Nicol is going to continue to have the effective lead of this race. This is fantastic.
That's how you get a start any command from the lead. He started second, but it was really first. So absolutely great run from him. Left Mazzomo just in his dust and now has a 6.5 second lead over Gilbert and Anderson. And if they, like I said, if they keep battling, it's not going to take much for him to really keep that lead, if not extend it. And that's absolute rep and sense for the awful race that he had in race 1. And he's still got to get to the flag. I'm not saying he's done yet, but fantastic setup for this final stint for him.
Darren Crosby and Lance Childs trying their best to work their way through in 8th and 9th position, and Crosby's in a much better place in this race than Lance Childs is. Remember, Childs had his spin in the early laps. He's trying to work his way back up. He's 2 positions down from where he started. Darren Crosby, though, has kept it nice and clean. He's up 8 from where he started. But can Lance Childs make that 7 places up? Has to give him some room, does Crosby. But clean racing between the two of them. It's going to be an over-under here from Lance Lance Childs as, oh no, that is going to be Crosby's teammate, Stephen Kennedy, in the wall, and they're side by side through the final turn. Crosby's going to try his best to hold on to this one from Lance Childs. It's bringing Dylan Thomas right into the fray too. Move complete potentially. There it is, move done, as coming back out of the pit lane is Henry King. He's gotten the repairs from that meatball flag done, so he's at least going to get himself a classified finish. VRS replay. Let's see what happened here to Mr. Stephen Kennedy. What happened coming down into... Oh, just caught the grass on the entry into 10A and 10B. So easy to do, Brad, with the fact that these cars are so heavy, so under-tired, and they don't have anti-lock brakes.
Yeah, it really is, especially if you get the brake bias wrong. That is a very big braking zone. You do have the compression, like you said earlier tonight, down the hill to help stop any locked brakes, but now Gilbert and Anderson going at it again, and that's less than ideal, but it's very ideal for Simon Mizomo, who's going to absolutely capitalize on this. And he's been slowly catching them as they've been fighting, and up 11 spots is a tremendous, up 13 spots even.
Whoa!
For Simon Mizomo side by side. That was very late switch.
Goodness gracious!
And Simon Mizomo is going to make it too wide up the hill.
This is fantastic. Well, Mizomo's going to back out of that one. I think he realizes, oh, you know, maybe these guys, I'll just let them fight and see if they take each other out, and I can get myself a position that way. But, oh man, Anderson and Gilbert, they are fighting so hard, tooth and nail. I'm wondering if they even know that Tim Nicol is out in front, having already taken his pit stop. I mean, they'll see that they're second, or battling for effective second, third on the road at the moment, but they might not realize that Nicol is actually pitted. So, oh dear, that's a big slide from Aaron Gilbert over that very unstable curb. That's going to let Simon Mizomo back by him, and that is allowing James Anderson to just streak away. Nathan Tregarthen is still in the overall lead of this race. He is the only car yet to come in for a pit stop, and he's decided to go as long as possible. Now, he's 15 seconds ahead of Tim Nicol. And in terms of a pit stop transit, when he comes out, it'll probably be somewhere in the vicinity of 11th or 12th, round about where Craig Mason is. So we'll see what happens there.
I think even if Anderson manages to pull away from Mizomo and Gilbert behind, we have 5 laps to go, and that gap is 6.7, 6.8 seconds up to Tim Nicol. So if Nicol just runs his own race and hits his mark, next car up the road, Nathan Tregarthen 16 seconds, Stephen Kennedy 40 seconds. That's half a lap, give or take. That's pretty much bang on half a lap. So all he has to do is hit his marks, and I don't know if Anderson has the pace to catch him. He's going to have to do, you know, low 19s, low 18s qualifying pace if he wants any chance of catching Nicol at this rate.
Oh, everybody's having trouble with the rears on the exit of turn 7, aren't they? Simon Mizomo still sticking with James Anderson. Aaron Gilbert has fallen right off the back of these guys. He is now a few seconds behind. Going down into 10A and 10B is Tim Nicol as Tregarthen finally takes his pit stop. So Nicol will easily go into the race lead, but James Anderson is starting to catch him. The gap is now at 5.5 seconds between the two of them. Oh, this is going to be an interesting finish with 4 laps to go. Does James Anderson have anything left in that car? Tregarthen in the box now, getting his service done. He's going to fall down the order a bit. And it looks to me like, is that all 4 tyres he's taken? I'm not too sure. It looks like it. So he's going to come out of the pits, and with Troy Sipple getting by him, looks like around about 8th place is where Nathan Tregarthen is going to be. And that is a bit better than I was expecting. 7th at the moment for Tregarthen. And he'll be able to make use of these fresh tyres in the final few laps of the race. Might be able to get back past Troy Sipple.
Yeah, very good recovery for Nathan Tregarthen after missing the start of race 1. Managed to capitalise on this race, and 7th place is a good position. I think the long run is definitely the way to go for that first stint, and then maximize the tyres in the second half. Simon Mizomo is still half a second behind Anderson. I don't know if he's quite going to be able to make the moves stick soon, but he's thereabouts if something goes wrong. If Anderson gets a wiggle out of turn 7, Mazzomo is going to have that position done, sitting 3rd at the moment, which is a fantastic position. 10th to 5th in race 1 and then 18th to currently 4th in race 2 is fantastic effort for Mazzomo. If he can get one more, then that'd just be a perfect night for him as far as he's concerned. 5.5 seconds is still the gap to Nickel from James Anderson, and Aaron Gilbert maybe just getting a bit too flustered in that early bout with Anderson is slowly starting to catch back up to Mazzomo after taking a quick breather.
We're right on board with Nathan Tregarthen, meanwhile, trying to get 6th place back from Troy Sipple. And a little bit more gentle into turn 5 for Tregarthen, but he's got plenty of opportunities here, particularly down the back stretch, which they'll come to in 2 corners' time. Sipple going for a bit more of a direct line to the inside of the corner. Might cost him just a little bit there. Tregarthen very aggressive over the curbs, though. He puts the power down nicely all the same. So let's see then what the draft is like for the 035. Sipple might go defensive here. He's going to stick to driver's left on the straight. But we know that it's possible to make moves round the outside into 10A and 10B. Is Tregarthen going to be brave on the brakes? Yes, he is. Troy Sipple conceding that position when they enter the braking zone. So, 2 laps to go, with Tim Nicol still in the lead by 5.3 seconds. A perfectly executed race from Tim Nicol so far. Started on pole position and was able to just drive cleanly away from the field while the drivers chasing him down were squabbling over the minor positions. This certainly turned into an interesting final race of the night in the V8s presented by Logitech G, of course. The battle between Anderson and Mazzomo still ongoing here. Aaron Gilbert is out of the picture just about, and it's only 0.5 of a second between Anderson and Mazzomo. Remember that Mazzomo, though, has tyres that are 5 laps newer than James Anderson's, so he has quite a bit of an advantage to gain here if he plays his cards right.
Yeah, he absolutely does, and Aaron Gilbert's still lingering around just in case something goes wrong for these guys. Simon is as close as he's been to Anderson all night, and very late move. Yes.
Oh dear, yeah. There was an attempt from Simon Mazzomo, but look at this. I think Jay has seen the same thing I did, because I've been looking at Tim Nicol this whole time. Now you ride on board with him here potentially and listen to what's going on in the car. There's no requirement to stop for fuel in this race, but when he gets to the braking zone, just past this kink, have a listen to this. He is clutching it into the braking zones. Tim Nicol might be in trouble here. He has given up so much time. James Anderson is now 1.8 seconds behind him as they are on the final lap now. The face of this race could change incredibly right at the final hurdle. Who's it going to be then? Anderson or Nicol for the race win? Mazzomo's backed off. He can't get that move done on James Anderson. He's going to have to settle for 3rd here and try and keep Aaron Gilbert behind him. Tim Nicol, he's still holding on to a 1.7 second lead. Hopefully he's saved enough fuel. Sounds like a very early shift into 6th gear as Mazzomo in the background tries to break the draft of Aaron Gilbert. Nicol, oh goodness. He is clutching it hard into this braking zone. Could this be a late move? No. Throttle on. Let's see what they can do then. Tim Nicol only now a little bit ahead. Is he coughing? He's coughing at the line. Nicol was going to win, but he's going to lose out to James Anderson at the line. Is he going to lose 3rd? Simon Mazzomo gets by him and Aaron Gilbert does too. Oh my goodness, Tim Nicol. We applaud you for your efforts, but my goodness, that is heartbreaking. Out of fuel at the end. What can you say as Gavin Cox and Craig Mason sort out 11th and 12th through the final corner? What a finish.
I don't know what you can say to that. That's, I don't know. That's a shot of whiskey and you're across the line in 1st place, but even the smell of a dirty rag wasn't enough in the end for Tim Nicol. Still 4th place is a fantastic result for him after his horrors in race 1, but he will be absolutely kicking himself after that.
Yeah, just one click more of fuel, and that could have made all the difference from the start of the race. That's how they stack up at the end then. James Anderson and Simon Mazzurmo 1 and 2. They'll probably remain 1 and 2 in the championship as Aaron Gilbert completes the podium. Nickel crosses the line in 4th in the end. Jordan Gallagher holds on for P5, up 9 places. Very good effort there. Nathan Tregarthen, Troy Sipple, Lance Childs, Darren Crosby, and Dylan Thomas are your top 10.
11th place starts with Gavin Cox with Craig Mason very closely behind him, 0.2 of a second in the end. Daniel Norris in 13th with Thomas Riley and Anthony Green in 14th and 15th. Stephen Kennedy in 16th, Cruz Mason 17th. The last car on the lead lap, Henry King and Dan Stevens finishing 4 and 7 laps down after their horrors on pit entry. Reese Harnell exits very early after his issues with pit entry early in the race, and Dion de Graaf not taking to the start of this race. Unfortunately, a non-finisher or a non-starter at the end of that.
Oh, well, it's going to be celebrations in victory lane for James Anderson. He missed out on the win in race 1, but he will get through and complete a very good night here at Road Atlanta for himself. He should be very happy there in the number 70. Oh, wow. What a night of racing it was here at Road Atlanta, and the fun isn't going to stop. Not only do we have iGPS coming up later this weekend on SimSpeed TV, certainly going to be looking forward to that in the Mercedes W12, but also the Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS is going to be racing at Road Atlanta on Sunday night. Make sure that you jump on to see that. On Sunday, I'll be in the comms box with Dan Yeaman and Scott Fountain on production. But the next time we race in Support Series, the Jettas will return once again at Interlagos, joined by the Flat Sixes. That'll be on May 27th at 7:45 Australian Eastern Time. It looks like James Anderson, our Race 2 winner, is in the interview waiting room, so we'll bring him right in and have a little chat. James, it's win number 2 for you in the V8SCOPS V8 Support Series, but tell you what, it was almost a second place.
Yeah, and I very well would have been happy with that second place. Yeah, unsure what happened there with Tim on the final lap. A couple of laps to go, I saw that his relative was starting to drop down. I thought, oh, we could be on here. It's almost shades of Wing Cup at Bathurst, but I thought, no, we'll just keep eyes forward, and second place is still a good result. But yeah, took the dive down at the final corner, and it paid off.
That you did, and just for your information, it looks like Nickel ran out of fuel, unfortunately, slightly underfueled the car, but you had enough fuel to get to the finish, and this should consolidate your championship lead with still a very strong result from race 1 with a P3.
Yeah, P3 race 1, very easily could have been another race 1 win as well, if it wasn't for that mistake. Just in the heat of the battle with Henry and Aaron, they've been racing really well so far this season, and you know, to make a mistake like that, it's unfortunate, but the racing was so good up until that point, and yeah, no hard feelings. It's just we're all trying to fight for the same piece of real estate, and luckily we all got out the other side. But yeah, no, really having a great start to the season, and you know, hope we can keep this momentum going for the next round.
Yeah, speaking of the next round, it's on June the 3rd at Sebring, and we're running the same format as here at Road Atlanta. Have you driven much at Sebring? What are your thoughts on that place?
Yeah, done a fair amount of running at Sebring. I quite enjoy the track. Whether it's GT3s or supercars, we did some of the older supercars that we're running tonight. Really enjoyed my racing at Sebring over the last couple of years. Didn't do too well at Sebring last season because I was the one that binned it at the final corner. Ended up going reverse down the straight to try and get the win. But yeah, we won't bring that up next week. I'll ask Jay to keep that in the archives.
Alrighty. Well, we'll see how it works out. Jay disagrees, but we'll see what happens. Before we let you go, James, anyone you'd like to thank for this victory tonight?
Yeah, just a big thanks to the team at MRP Sim Racing. We've got some pretty good momentum on our side at the moment at our team because my brother just wrapped up the NZ Porsche Super Cup Championship last night, and obviously a couple podiums tonight for myself. So it's a good momentum for the team, and a shout out to my friend Mitch who's watching on the stream at home.
Well, thanks very much for joining us. James Anderson will let you celebrate your victory. Well, that brings to an end proceedings for tonight, Brad. Goodness gracious, that was just an incredible night of racing. I mean, not just from the driver's seat, but also from the comms box as well. I'm really happy with how things went, and it's really hyping me up for Sunday.
Yeah, it absolutely was. That was 4 fantastic races, and in very different ways as well. Obviously the draft from the Jettas helped, and then that absolute spicy finish at the end for the V8s was a perfect way to cap off the supports for this week. And likewise, I'm very excited for the main game on Sunday night, which of course I'll be happily standing by to watch instead of commentating that, because I don't know if my little lungs could take it, but I'm very, very excited for that.
Yeah, I don't think my lungs are going to do much better. Once again, if you're interested in catching up with V8SCOPS action, you'll be able to see it on Sunday night. But that's where we're going to say goodbye here on SimSpeed TV. Another big thanks to our friends at Logitech G for their support of this series, certainly turning into an absolute banger of a season. That's been the Logitech G V8SCOPS supports for April 22nd, 2022. I'm Reese Gardner, it's Brad Wingard alongside me, and Jay Kennedy on production. Goodbye for now, but not forever.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney! Oh, he's taking Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?